discussed and the task force needs to vote on prior to moving to a final vote on task force recommendations. And let me just go over a couple things before we get into the details of all that. This is not the last step in the comprehensive plan update, but this is a very important step in updating Reston's comprehensive plan. So we'll be talking about this a little bit more in a few minutes, but after the task force wraps up its recommendation, then we will go into a public outreach and engagement series, during which time members of the public will be able to look at, throw darts at, agree with the task force recommendations, any staff recommendations, other recommendations coming in from the community. So that is going to be a very important part. So don't worry if there are things here that you don't agree with or you don't like. There will still be an opportunity during the public engagement process to put your 2 cents on the table and make your case at that point. So Lisa has put the draft agenda up on the screen. As you can see, in item 2, there will be several sections that will be discussed. Community health, then a discussion about parks and open space, some final transportation edits from John Mooney, and then earned density. Then Lynn will go over the reconciliation dashboard, which does go through quite a few, does a great job, actually not that many, but a number of changes from, that describe a number of changes from the last version of the consolidated plan to what was sent to the task force about a week ago. And then item number 4 will be looking to vote on endorsement of the overall task force recommendations. So then we'll be talking afterwards about, and there are a bunch of dates that you'll see there in the agenda, the public outreach and engagement section. So any questions or comments on the agenda? Okay, very good. And so what we'll do is, with our regular procedures, basically as folks are, task force members are here, they will be encouraged and allowed and encouraged to vote using the electronic hand, raised hand. Hopefully everybody knows how to do that very well by this point. And let's just go right into the first item. And Lisa, if you could remind me what that first of those 4 were again.
That was the community health.
All right, community health. So we've had several rabbits pulled out of a hat during the last few weeks. Chris, I believe you get the gold star for stepping up and moving this to this point. And Chris, I wondered if you could, at this point, talk about what you have done with the draft chapter, and make any recommendations for the task force consideration.
Sure. Thanks, Supervisor. So I sent out an email, obviously, with the section for everybody, but I'll walk through it for everyone. So at the end of the last meeting in July, we undertook a vote to recommend that we wanted a community health section in the comp plan, but that we needed to bring a revised version to the meeting today for everyone to take up a vote on. Following that, during the submission, Michelle, who was the working group leader, got several comments from David Bunnell and Mike Jennings and got feedback during the meeting on this. Following that, I took those drafts, as well as a version was being put together by staff, as well as additional feedback from David and Mike Jennings, and consolidated all that into basically a reconciled version. And then myself and David Bunnell, we met with staff, particularly Anna Rankin, working on looking at what we were proposing to do to consolidate and make a community health version. Staff provided their feedback on that, and we walked through those sticking points and got to the version that you see today that was provided that staff was supportive of. Some of the big changes I think that were brought up during the July meeting was we needed to find a way to emphasize the importance of community health, but also keep the language in a way that it wasn't going to be so prescriptive that it came across as must happen in every one of these situations, which is obviously a perennial, challenge we've been dealing with working on this plan, because obviously it's a planning document, so we can't say something is going to be exact every time is going to happen that way. We needed something that was going to be more guidance that would help staff as they evaluated incoming development in response to community health. And so that's kind of the objective we tried to do here. I'm never going to acknowledge that I think it is perfect in any way, nor is it, it's going to be as forceful as I think the working group initially saw it as. So, I've tried to walk a thread a needle, as I think Tammy said to me on this one. So I'm hoping I got close. The only feedback we got following that version that went out to everybody was from Tammy. She provided some recommendations to us, and so that's kind of where we stand at the moment. I want to give Tammy a chance to bring up her comments. I do have them here so I can share and show them, but I also wanted to open it up to other task force members too, and other questions. And as well, David and Mike, I know you all participated a lot in this discussion too, so if you have anything you want to add on this, please feel free. Same with Anna as well.
Chris, thank you so much. Tammy, did you want to go next?
Thank you, Walter. I had two substantive things, and I had.
Do you want me to try to pull up those?
Would you mind, Chris? I would appreciate it. I have it printed out, but it's so tiny, and it's dark here, so it's hard. I edited for. There was a lot of communities in one sentence. I got rid of that. It didn't change the substance in most cases, but there are two places that it did.
Let me know where you want to go, Tammy, and I'll take the document. Hopefully everyone can see it now.
Well, I'm not sure. Do we want to go through the edits first? And that will I think we should. This is this chapter is not very long. So in the first sentence, you can see this things easily in red. Can people see this? Is it big enough?
No.
They need it
see
to
what
be
I can
bigger.
do about
Chris,
that.
can you make that, enlarge it a little bit?
Yeah, enlarging it is good.
All right, let me.
There you go.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, let's just go through it as we go, and if anybody has an objection, speak up. This is about Reston, so the first one affects all, not levels of the community, all Restonians. That's business or people. If you have an objection, please break in. Second paragraph. To attract residents, employees, and businesses that are seeking healthy communities, planning and development in Reston should ensure that the impact of new development on community health is mitigated appropriately and current community health needs are improved through future development.
Tammy, do we really want to say the needs are improved or the public health is improved?
Well, we can get rid of needs. That's fine with me. Yeah, I have no objection to getting rid of needs.
So I would obviously, some of these are ones that I would look for some input from staff on them. Just if there was an observation they have on them, because obviously some of this is obviously the intro section is a lot of vision perspective. So it's not very, it can be much more flexible in what it says, but I want to make sure that, particularly Anna, I don't want to put you in the hot seat here, but since you provide a lot of feedback, there's something in here that you're worried about, please do chime in.
Well, this is Mike Jennings. I'll chime in. I'm not sure that we need to say community health needs are improved. I mean, not every development has a role in improving health. I mean, it doesn't always apply. So I didn't think that this change was necessary from what we have. Just my 2 cents.
Well, we're talking about public health, and we're not talking about development that wouldn't affect it, Mike. That's you know, the impact of new development on community health is considered. So we don't want to do that. Why would we not want to do that? That's the whole essence of including community health in the plan, is it not?
Well, it looks like the word, aren't we seeing the considered is deleted?
Well, actually, and now that I'm rereading this, I see the word is considered is included twice in this sentence.
That's
So-
why it's deleted the second
it.
time.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think what
Yep.
you're suggesting is great, but eliminating the word needs, so that current community health is improved.
That's
is
perfect.
what makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you.
Agreed.
So Chris, yeah, thanks.
All right.
Third paragraph.
You'll
can you-
want to change are to is.
Thank you. It takes a
Thank
village.
you. It does.
Chris, thanks for doing this on the fly.
No
Yes.
We
problem.
don't have babysitting duties tonight and doing this.
Well, my wife is in the
Chris-
other room making dinner, so your thank you was hopefully heard.
Okay, next is one where we had community. So these have been deleted. I don't think that
Well, just one question. This is more of a grammar thing, Tammy. It says, if you look disproportionately borne by underserved and underrepresented, those are adjectives. Don't they need a noun to modify? It seems like communities or
they
something should
are,
be in there.
well, it's an implied noun, but underserved.
It would probably have to be then by the underserved and underrepresented at that point, because you would be making, I think as Mike said, you're making them into a noun as opposed to the adjective on communities.
What
makes-
is the feeling? we have a lot of community.
Well, I think your elimination of community members, I think works, but I think keeping underserved and underrepresented communities is a term that Anna and her folks use a
Okay,
lot.
so let's just keep community. Well, no, then we go to 3 communities, including,
Yeah, I think what they're saying is leave community members scratched out, but detrimental health impacts are disproportionately borne by the underserved and underrepresented, including low. And so it's just,
Yeah.
yes, thank you.
right,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
yeah, we
Okay.
had just too many communities in that chapter.
Moving downward.
Alrighty. And this was,
I'm going to adjust the view so people can see this a little better too.
yeah. Now, is ensure better than maintain and grow? I think it's less wordy. Ensure Reston's health capacity for all residents with a focus on meeting current needs and future demand.
I like ensure.
So I just want to jump in here. So the maintain and grow element was a component of Michelle's original draft that was really focused on a concern for loss of healthcare coverage and the future needs of an aging population or a more diverse population, and certainly a growing population. So that's where that maintain and grow came from as part of that vision. Now, I think the word ensure could be used in other places, but that's the explanation behind the maintain and grow phrase.
So is that you're saying leave that? This was one that I was like,
I would recommend leaving it, but obviously it's up to the task force.
Well,
No.
Anna, you said it better than I would, that this was kind of part of like, because this section I would say was the most change from the working group's original version.
okay, so this
and-
let's keep maintain and grow, get rid of ensure. And then we do want to have current in there. If we're maintaining and growing
Right.
current, we want to have that in there.
Right.
So, okay, so I would just leave it as was.
As was, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Downward.
Downward
right.
and upward.
Okay. Not only stand doesn't need to be there. Communities that foster active living improve both individual health outcomes and the overall health and long-term success of the community.
So I was going to say, Tammy, from my reaction, the sense it's just this is stylistic. I think you are definitely making it more straightforward.
It's more
Again.
straightforward, it's clearer, and it's shorter.
So I don't have an objection with that. It just that because it's just, you know, we were working with a lot of language here and trying
Oh,
to make
yes,
something-
absolutely. And no negative. I mean, it's much easier to edit than it is to write it.
The same where you're on the one below, you're continuing child and just turning into there. You're just removing
Correct.
the replication
You
of
don't need to
child
have-
and children.
Yeah. Okay.
Good with all those changes.
All right.
Yeah.
As the population increases, additional amenities and facilities for active, healthy lives will be, I have required, is same as needed, to meet the needs of the residents, including exercise and playgrounds, exercise facilities and playgrounds.
I think needed is the proper term there.
You prefer
Yeah, if
needed?
we're trying to stay away from the very strong, then needed is a little bit more. I think, and that's
Okay.
where some of these. All right. I'm going further down. Let me move this box. in case it's
Yeah,
blocking.
okay. Now this was getting into the objectives. So these are active verbs. So-
I didn't have an issue with you moving you did this in a few of these where you move the active verb to the front, which
Right.
to me it has not changed the meaning of the sentence. It's just put
Correct.
it in the right place.
And metro is capitalized.
I don't know if I capitalize it personally as a writer, but that's me.
No comment, Chris.
No comment.
Okay.
Is there an objection there with that change? Okay. We'll grab all these small ones.
All right.
Drinking water you added
Yeah, this
here.
is a substantive change. We're talking about restrooms, hand washing stations. That was a little bit interesting. I thought if we have restrooms, do we need hand washing stations too? We do need drinking water. That is, if we're going to have the rest of this, drinking water seems to me to be really important.
So I think in this one, this was a combination of several other objectives previously.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
and hand washing stations related specifically for the O&D trail as something that was being thought about.
Correct.
I would obviously David, Mike, but I don't see this as again evaluating. So it's not.
And it's
you know.
potential amenities. And people, I'll just tell you, and from RPZ, people are, and other conversations that we've had in our 58 meetings, people are always talking about drinking fountains, drinking water. So
I actually think that's a really good piece of input. Maybe just say water fountains, but yeah, actually that was a miss that we didn't include that because water fountains are a critical component of a healthy community and allow people to be active. So thank you for remembering that. I would recommend that we include the water fountains.
Is that okay, Tammy, to make it water
oh,
fountains?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Just one word of caution. Water fountains do not work in Fairfax County right now. No matter what building you go into, they're shut off because of COVID. That may change, but then again, it may not. So
I
I don't
believe that-
disagree that we need to mention water availability, but
Do we keep it vaguer as drinking water?
I actually think water fountains is a specific amenity. And actually water fountains are working in our public buildings, in all of Government Center and all of our office buildings. The water fountains are turned back on.
not over at Reston Hospital buildings.
Oh, okay.
Buyer beware, I guess. Thank you, Anna. All right, let's go.
Food systems. I think the first comment is you
Yeah, this
added
was the
that
missing
there.
step that
I
needed to
didn't
be in there.
think that was an issue. Okay, so let's take these one at a time.
Yes, please.
And obviously, I think there was a lot of input provided on this one, so I would look to my other folks who helped provide input on this one.
Prioritize walkability within 1 mile network distance to grocery stores and other food sites, gardens, pantries, when evaluating pedestrian connections to and from new development, especially those in the TSA or including ADUs, WDUs.
I think that's just a nice stylish reduction. That's not, so I don't have an issue with that one. Encourage the provision. So you say provide or accommodate.
Provide space to accommodate small scale food sellers or convenience stores within new development if a full service grocery is not located within half a mile of the site, if within the TOD, or within 1 mile of the site elsewhere in Reston.
But I just had a question. Why is it so important in the I understand why it's important in the TSAs, but why wouldn't it be important in the neighborhoods? We want to keep our grocery stores in the village centers would be the.
Well, that's true. And that elsewhere in Reston, I thought covered that, John.
I don't know, I just see especially those in the TSA or including.
Do you want to, how would you suggest changing this?
Well, I don't know why it's so special in the TSAs as opposed to the village centers. That was.
Because that's kind of the whole point of a TSA in particular is not to hopefully have to drive somewhere.
Yeah. I get that, but
Just
isn't
have
that
cars.
important in all of Reston, especially in the village and development in the village centers? But especially those in the TSAs and near the village centers, would that work?
Well, we have, let's go down. We have another, the bullet below sort of gets us to that. I think.
As village centers, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure it has village centers, but we can add it.
Well, it says within half mile.
Okay,
I get it.
so
I get it. I see.
I would,
Within
this
1
is
mile
David
of
again.
the site elsewhere in Reston.
All right, so
Yeah.
we're okay with bullet one. Are we? Or David, I saw you pop up for a second, so I just want to make
No,
sure.
I would advise encourage the provision rather than provide. Provide is a declarative, almost a demand. And who are we demanding that of? I would leave.
This was trying to get at the challenge that was brought up about whether or not, how much we could control the fact that obviously food providers will locate in certain places. Hence why the encourage provision was the one we had kind of put in here, as it obviously is trying to provide as much flexibility as possible, given the fact that one can not demand that it be there despite wanting it there, I guess was what we were getting at with David and I's and Mike's revisions here.
well, these are planning objectives. They're not planning dictating. This is a vision. I don't know. It's I'm wary of being so loosey-goosey that we don't get much. So isn't this supposed to be what we want? Encourage the provision of, I mean, I guess we can do that if people feel strongly, but I would very seriously, food is not optional. And believe it or not, and I'm going to tell a tale out of class, we had a Comstock executive tell us that Comstock could not get a grocery in the Wheelie area, so that every person in the TOD living there, resident, needed to have a car. At the same time, we're being faced with parking reimagined. So we got two sides of this coin going on, and we're saying provide space for small scale food sellers or convenience stores. If you can't do that, Seriously.
You know,
That's-
this stuff is mainly marked, I think what David, Chris, and I and Anna put together is perfectly reasonable. And I really think we're going too far on this.
There's a difference between prioritize and prioritize and provide.
I 100% agree, but we're not talking about a full-scale grocery store. We're talking about a 7-Eleven or something that a convenience center that has food. If you think that's a bridge too far to ask a developer to do, we'll encourage them to do it. But at what point are you going to stand up and say, this is our vision and this is what we'd like to see?
Well, that's what we are saying. This is what we'd like to see. And if the market, remember, Tammy, that you can't force someone to put a 7-Eleven in or, you know, something else if the market isn't going to support it. It's, you know, we got to be realistic.
You're having people live in the TOD, aren't you?
Yeah.
50%?
Okay.
50% of the density, but you don't want to ask them to provide a small scale food seller or convenience store? That's what I'm saying,
Well, I just don't agree.
Mr. Jennings. That's absolutely poor planning. And this is
Well,
not
for this,
dictation. This is the vision of what we expect.
for the sake of trying to find a way through, so I know we got a huge agenda. I think it's, you know, we vote provide versus encourage, or you know, we move on. We need to find we don't want to sit on an impasse here. So
Yes, let's just encourage the provision.
So with that in mind, the next one,
That's just a rephrasing to get your verb at the beginning.
all right, I'm going to apologize if you get some back chatter from various children.
Not a problem.
So with this one, Tammy, I don't have an issue with the pushing the support residents getting to and from. I would really want to keep the property owner should demonstrate how it will. Like that, you drop that last part of this this bullet, you delete it. That was something I think David and Mike and I all thought was, if we're not going to have something, the developer needs to demonstrate, you know, how it will support. We wanted to put some onus on how do we.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I find that we're going to make them do this, but we're not going to have them provide a 7-Eleven. To be sort of ironic, when we have 50%, not 75-25, but 50% of the space is going to be residential. So if I take your point, so you want them to have.
Well, I like the fact that you put the active verb in front, but I'm trying to figure out a way to keep the requirement on, or the expectation that there should be a demonstration for how it will be supporting getting to these resources. So that was something I think might have came from you, Mike, or maybe it was from David.
Chris, this is Bill Penham. Can I just ask a question how that would work? So somebody builds a collection of 10 townhouses with garages inside the TSA. What is he supposed to do to prove that he's made provision, other than providing garage space, for doing that? I think it's nice to encourage, but you're going to have multiple types of, you're going to have big multifamily, you're going to have little developments, there are a variety of, I just don't know how you can, I'm not sure what you'd be looking for. I mean, I like the idea of encouraging him to provide something where it's needed, but I don't know. And Uber's available to everyone. That might be the answer. I don't know.
Uber's available to everyone who has money to pay for Uber.
Well, but if you don't have money to pay for your apartment, I don't know. I think you may be getting overly prescriptive. Where encouraging is certainly a great idea.
So I think with the purpose of the encouraging the provision of space to accommodate small food sellers, as well as asking property owners to demonstrate how they will support residents getting to and from food, are kind of going hand in hand. And so that second bullet is even a little bit more of the stronger encouragement, to speak to Tammy's point of how are they going to demonstrate it. So that could be one way to implement the first bullet of encouraging provision of space. I think for a developer, hopefully is not building in the TSA townhouses, hopefully is building more multifamily or mixed use development that would have more potential for space for some kind of food option. But other options would be, of course, supporting a neighborhood shuttle or contributing to the circulator, or not the circulator, the connector to connect people to food, or other kinds of, a new bus stop, other kinds of ways that, we don't have to list, such as, all the ways in this document. But I think there's a lot of, this leaves some flexibility for creativity of finding options.
Anna, would one solution, and maybe Tammy, could one solution be actually putting this bullet into this one above it, the encouraging provision, and making it one whole and parcel as Anna's kind of indicated, or making it a sub bullet? I think we have one section that does have sub bullets, but because I take your point, Bill, about how, but I'm leaving that more on the staff side. And as Tammy brought up, she's seen it happen in other, portions of the government where it's folks have asked that question. So I would like that people to have those answers when they're proposing that, even if it is not necessarily an answer we all want to hear. I would want someone to have thought about how folks are getting access to food. I'm not necessarily, this isn't trying to look at the exact answer for each hypothetical, but merely that if you can't meet this, then how are folks getting access? And that shouldn't be a hard ask for a development to be able to look at a map and answer those questions, even if it is well, they have a parking lot, so they'll be able to drive. Here's the nearest grocery store. Not to be.
So you could, oh, go on.
Hi, this is Rich from Brookfield, Rich Vernicola. All of these, we're talking about sites in the TOD which have access to Metro, assuming Metro will open one day. And there's certainly are grocery stores along the Metro that may be part of the solution, as opposed to shuttling or some other method. I think people could walk to Metro, get on the Metro, get to a grocery store. I know it's hard to lug bags around, but it may be an option here so we can, part of the solution.
Thanks, Rich. And to that point, you have to have money to get on the Metro. It's not free. So if you're in an ADU or a WDU, I'm trying to think of the entire community, not just the privileged people that live there that can afford to live in the TOD. We are encouraging modestly priced DUs because it has access to, but then I am trying to look at the entire community from an equity standpoint, not just those that we think that we're like that can afford to do anything. That was my, and so
that's why I'm asking if we moved this behind elsewhere in Reston and made this all one bullet, would that be more to what you're getting at, Tammy?
I think that they're different enough issues that they should have their own bullet. Each of them should have their own bullet. First of all, providing encouraging provision of space for food sellers. Second is, how do we determine, and maybe the answer, the simple answer is maybe every village center in this community is served by the Reston shuttles. And that's certainly a way that the people can get back and forth between their resident and either a village center with a grocery store or a village center with a farm market, and it's not expensive.
Can I just say, we can't delay this forever because we have a huge agenda, but I will tell you that I have picked up people sitting on the outside of Kaiser who go to appointments and then they have to have an entire day to get from, this was Chestnut Grove to Kaiser, you know where that distance is. And then they went to the Hunterswood Safeway. And I asked, why that Safeway? Because that has the bus service that can get me back to Chestnut Grove today. It's hours of waiting for bus shuttles. So so to assume that because there's public transit at a stop, that it's not going to take onerous time. So I took the old lady around, waited for her to shop, and took her to Chestnut Grove. So, again, the timing of, we don't have a bus system that is really a bus system that comes with a lead time that works for people. In a metro area, you have that luxury, and it's not really a luxury for the people who use it. It's just how they comport their lives. In Reston, we don't have that frequency, and I don't know what, I've forgotten the term for the lead time for the buses. So people are cobbling together these crazy things to get food. And then this old lady is carrying bags. So that's why my head goes to these crazy places, because I'm familiar with the task.
Tammy, I'm not against the
Thank
way
you,
you
Tammy.
reordered it, because I want to keep the active verb in front. I like that. I think the objective should all keep that support. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, I think what you've written in blue is perfect.
Is that okay? I'm gonna push us forward then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tammy.
It's okay, but I still will stress that this is not an issue in the TSAs. All of the TSAs already have this or will have it. The wheelie is the one to question. This is more of an issue in places like the new Fellowship House or Vantage Hill. It's more of an issue in the neighborhoods than it is in the TSAs. But as long as it works for both, I don't have a problem.
Well, believe it or not, the new Fellowship House at Lake Ann has a pretty robust bus service that comes right to that bus stop right outside, or at least they did to the old one, John.
Well,
I'm familiar with people who live there, and they do use that.
I'm just cautioning, we tend to focus our issues on the TSAs, and I think this one is really more about the neighborhoods than it is the TSAs. I don't have a problem with it, but that should be in the back of people's
And
minds.
I recognize Walter's adage that this isn't the end all be all of this plan.
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
this will go through it's going to go through a meat grinder still. This is just the first part of the sausage process.
Okay,
So,
let's keep going.
Okay.
Your green infrastructure, healthy buildings, climate health section. Tammy,
Yes,
has
and this is
suggestion of
another, this
counter heat
is a substantive change. This is from working on the environmental chapter, and the shade thing, we've already said that in the next one. We have shade in the third bullet, but here I said counter heat island effects. So this is what the diversity of vegetation does, is counter heat island effects and filter air pollution.
It didn't bother me by
Next
the
budget,
suggestion.
we have it. So that was why this was made.
Hearing no objections, I'm going to accept. All right, let's jump into these.
I was not sure myself what legacy pollutants are, so I said existing. I assume that's what that meant. But
So this term applies to things like PCBs, lead, asbestos, but we kept it as legacy so that it didn't name an exclusive pollutant, so that if there were others identified, it would capture any.
Correct. And is that a generally known term, Chris? And that's, yeah, I'm pretty fluent in this language. I had not heard that legacy, but I could infer that it's existing pollutants. But that's why I made this change. I don't have a problem with keeping it legacy. I just wanted it to be very clear what you're talking about. And if it's PCBs or whatever it is, it's existing. And
I am not sure myself, so if staff has input as to whether existing or legacy is better, I am agnostic about it, because this is not my wheelhouse. I just use the big three all the time in historic buildings: lead, PCBs, and asbestos.
This is not my area of expertise. So I personally would be fine with saying existing. It could cover potentially more than your typical legacy pollutants, which I was familiar with that term, but not necessarily all of the ones that, usually it's the ones from former manufacturing activity or potentially, I don't know if, say, a gas station being remediated, if that's considered a legacy pollutant. Obviously, there could be lead if it had been a gas station for a long time, but potentially existing could capture more in that situation of a gas station that's being remediated, but it never had lead or whatever other pollution it might have spread.
It doesn't bother me.
Do you need either word, legacy or existing? Why isn't it any pollutants that are present? That's the same as existing.
That's fine.
Chris, the last word in that sentence was thrown off by the reformatting, or
It'll go away as soon as this
okay.
is corrected. You want to just get rid of both words?
Yeah, sure. Ooh, okay, there we go. That's just all right. Then this is the next one is you flipping it and getting our active
flip.
word in front,
That's it.
which I am perfectly fine with.
Yeah, the next bullet is the chapter is this unfortunate bullet had 2 references to the environmental stewardship chapter. I don't know that the chapter has to be a capital C, but whatever. So I
no,
just
that was a
took
fine catch as well. Try to accept it. I apologize. My daughter is providing a lot of input on this session. I don't know if y'all can hear her. And we'll do another proof on this too.
Okay.
That was the last one here, and then you had one in social cohesion.
And this is just add an S to partnerships.
Yes, I thought that both of these are.
And change the to plural.
That was fine. Not letting me accept these. There we go.
Now, do we need to have this to use? Doesn't it encourage preservation and development of indoor and outdoor community gathering spaces, such as plazas that will be open to residents, visitors, and employees throughout Reston? We don't need to use in there. That's.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And that was the last one.
That's it.
The other ones I'll go back and check again just to make sure, instead of doing a live edit right now on those. I guess I would ask if there were any other comments, questions, observations that need to be shared on any of these. Otherwise, I, for the sake of time, would want to move that we adopt this section.
I second as amended.
Okay, the motion to endorse has been made and it's been seconded as amended. Are there any other changes anyone wants or any further discussion on this chapter before voting? Okay, then let's go to a vote of task force members. So what I'll do is the countdown, and then I'll ask folks to raise their hand electronically. If you have trouble with that, let me know. We can go with the old-fashioned raise hand in the video screen as well. So we'll go first with ayes, and then we'll go with nays, and then we'll go with abstention. So first will be all those in favor of endorsing this chapter as amended this evening. Please raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I count 14 in favor. Okay, go ahead and put your electronic hands down. Right, and now I will ask, okay, good, everybody's got their hand down. I will ask for nays. Put your electronic hand up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow, look at that. 0. Okay, so I would ask for abstentions. Any abstentions? Please raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 1 abstention. Wow, that carries. And Chris, I think that might be the first almost unanimous, or at least no nay vote. So nice job.
Well,
And
I stand on the shoulders of a lot of others for this. It is a section that I helped carry across the finish line. A lot of other folks deserve a lot of thanks, particularly staff, as well as Michelle and her working group, and then David, Mike as well for their help. So I'm just happy to see it passed. So thank you, everybody.
yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you all
stepping up.
very much. And Tammy, thank you for that input as well. It's very helpful. And I also just want to note, Anna, if you could correct me on this, but I believe should this or some variation of this be incorporated into the comprehensive plan for Reston, this will be the first community health section in Fairfax County's Reston comprehensive plan, or comprehensive plan. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. It will be the first chapter on public health, community health that would be included in an area plan in any part of our comp plan. When I first started with the county 4 years ago, I did a Control F search in our comprehensive plan to find, well, in the policy plan mainly, to find the word health, and it came up as economic health or fiscal health or other kinds of health, and a couple of times as related to quality of life, but it was very few times that health was mentioned as a component of our planning process. So it's really exciting to see what you all have done. And it's been great to be a part of it. And I'm excited to bring it to the community and hear what they have to say and talk about, this kind of setting a precedent for future planning that can be more health oriented and consider health outcomes and health impacts of the planning process. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anna, very much. Again, Chris, thank you. Okay, then let's move on. We do have next on the agenda, we have edits requested on the Parks and Open Space chapter. I understand Jennifer is not able to be here tonight. I know there were several folks that have worked on this chapter. I know it's been to the task force and discussed. At this point, I'll just open it up. Is there anyone who has any questions or comments or wants to open up any elements? Well, basically, is there anything that anyone wants to raise at this point relating to Jennifer's comments? And I see a physical hand raised by Lynn. So Lynn, go right ahead.
Walter, thank you. Yeah, I didn't know if Jennifer was going to be able to be on the call or not. So I was kind of prepared just to, I guess, introduce her edits. Those were made and submitted to the task force back on July the 28th. So I think that we've had plenty of time to review those edits. I have gone through and I've reviewed them all myself. I personally think that they are well within the scope of the chapter. And I do think that given Jennifer's work as the chapter lead for as much time as she put into this, I would like to, if we have to go through the entire chapter and look at every single edit, I'm happy to do that. I'm prepared to do that. But I would just like to assume that folks have had an opportunity to review those changes, and that I would like to move that we go ahead and accept her edits to the chapter and incorporate those into the draft.
Okay.
I'm going to oppose. I don't agree to that. And I guess unless someone seconds it, I think the parks and open space that we approved the last time are good. We had lots of discussion and vote, and her changes are voluminous. Some of them are editorial, like what about FCPA this and what about FCPA that? And
Well, do we want to go through then and look
no,
at each of those and take a vote?
No, I don't want to go through them. I think what we have all already voted on are fine. That's my opinion. Of course, there's you know.
Okay.
No,
Before we have
There-
any more discussion, is there a second to Lynn's?
yes, I
motion?
second Lynn's motion.
Okay, Tammy seconded, so now let's open it up for discussion. Lynn, do you want to, as the maker of the motion, do you want to make a suggestion on moving forward at this point?
Yes, I'm happy to go through and share. I don't think that the changes were that voluminous. There are some changes that have been ongoing debates regarding the verbiage that is used regarding Fairfax County Park Authority, and there is nothing in there about Reston Association. So I think that Jennifer's edits do need to be considered. And I'm happy to, if I can share my screen, I will, if you all would like, I will be happy to bring those up.
Yeah, Lynn, if you could, maybe just walk through them quickly.
Okay.
And see if there are any questions or concerns.
You could enlarge it.
Yeah, that's a little small for me too.
Yes.
That's getting better.
I guess I'm also confused. I'm also confused because
For everybody.
Okay, that's really good. And Bill, did you have a comment or question?
yeah, I'm confused as to what we're talking about. A lot of the things were marginal notations that didn't seem to actually make an edit, raised a question. So I don't know whether all that's been incorporated, and not all of it was from Jennifer Justruck. I mean, there were some other things thrown in, so I don't know what you've decided to take or not.
Well, so I'm showing you this shows as a red line of what we approved at the last meeting. And this includes her edits. Okay. So this is the first edit. So her recommendation is that we not just list these small parks, but that we augment this list with parks and open space. That's to be determined. I think this was in the first iteration that was approved by the task force. So reincorporating that made a lot of sense to me.
Okay, yeah, that's just an example of where I was confused as to what the intended resolution was, whether it's going to be to delete the thing or come up with a different one. Apparently, it's to come up with a longer one. That's fine.
Well, it's to augment this with all of the parks that were originally voted on by the task force. Yeah.
No objection. Just
Thank you.
understanding.
So the county-wide service levels, this was something that was stricken. County-wide service level standards established in the Parks and Rec section of the policy plan form the basis to determine of how many, that's bad grammar. Fairfax County Park Authority needs assessments inform Fairfax County's capital CIP process and provide. She did not think that this was necessary to be included in the comprehensive plan. The appropriate language here is that more guidance for the provision of parks, recreation, and open space is provided in the recommendation sections of this chapter. The need to expand or add significant indoor facilities, including a recreation center with an aquatic center, has been identified. I think that this covers this. I agree with her that we don't need to get into the Fairfax County Park Authority county-wide service levels. But if you all feel differently, we can discuss.
I think the issue really was how much, most of the facilities in Reston, we have very few Fairfax County Park Authority facilities in Reston. And most of them are Reston Association, which is a privately funded, and many of us pay into that. So why is this park authority their particular methodology of determining need? Why is that the overreaching discussion in this chapter? I think that was one of the big.
So her thing was that thank you, Tammy. So any other discussion?
Wasn't the issue, Lynn, and I think it says elsewhere when we get into implementation, the issue was what are the standards for the TSAs versus what are the standards in the rest of the neighborhoods? And I think somewhere else we have clarified those,
Right.
those guidelines. So I think
It's in the next
elsewhere.
paragraph. Yeah, it's in this next paragraph, John.
So
Thank
that
you.
probably takes care of the red lines probably could be eliminated. I thought that was the issue.
And just a note, the redlining,
You're right.
it seems,
Sorry, Bill, you're breaking up.
yeah, it looks like you don't have everything that you wanted to redline. In other words, about 4
No,
lines
this
from the
is what
bottom.
this is what she edited.
So the sentence begins, facilities period adopt as service levels generally applied to playgrounds
No.
and
No.
nothing else.
This is it. If we remove that, this is how it looks.
Okay. It just, the line didn't show up, sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Question
Okay.
to the staff, I guess. Does Fairfax County consider or request or use Fairfax County Park Authority information elsewhere in the county?
Yes.
Then
Definitely.
why do we feel the need to take it out of here?
Well, it is included. It's just, we've got Fairfax counties. So this is the Urban Parks Framework in the Parks and Recreation section of the policy plan.
Yeah, that was my
So
point.
this is the TSAs and guidelines for development. And we talk about the Urban Parks Framework and how that was established to guide the creation of park system in Fairfax County.
Because the red line is really redundant of
Yes,
this
it was
paragraph.
redundant.
Yeah. We're not removing anything. It's all included in this paragraph that we're looking at now. Seems okay.
Are you able to see what I've highlighted, David?
It's awfully small.
Well, you have had this. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, I don't think we
That's
have.
better.
At least all I've
You
seen.
did. You received this from Jennifer on July the 28th.
What I saw.
She sent
was
her
a
edits
series-
out to the task force. Mhm.
What I received was a series of marginal notes, sometimes accompanied by edits and sometimes not.
Oh,
So for example, in what I think is the paragraph you just highlighted, there's a sentence, the Parks and Recreation section of the policy plan will be used in Reston neighborhoods and all other areas. Is that in here? Okay. And then there was more after that, which wasn't marked or highlighted or, and the marginal, I mean, there seemed to be a marginal note debate. So it's just hard.
so this is the description. So this is the Urban Parks Framework in the Parks and Recreation section. This is for the Reston TSAs, and then the Parks and Recreation section of the policy plan will be used for the Reston neighborhoods and all other areas.
Okay.
It's the important clarification.
Right.
But that's fine. And then what I saw missing turns out to be now a new paragraph. Okay.
Right. I think that's right.
Thanks. Okay. All right. The next edit was a larger scale playground that was changed to park, or athletic field was changed to recreation amenity. I thought those were minor edits. I don't have an issue with those changes. Does anyone else?
no.
Okay, this is with the exception of the WOD trail, the needs and recommendations are subject to the Fairfax County Park Authority master planning and needs assessment process to determine the appropriate facilities and design for parks. So that is a bit broad for Reston, since there are so many entities
Yes.
that have their own master planning processes for the area, inclusive of Reston Association. Now, we did leave in implementation of park master plans is through the county and Fairfax County Park Authority Capital Improvement Program.
Would it be useful, Lynn, to add the word public before park? This is, because we're really talking about the park master plans, not parks as a generic term.
Well, I think that excludes Reston Association, because Reston Association is a private.
Yeah,
Yes,
maybe you
that's,
should say
that's what it does.
FCPA, John.
What's that?
Maybe you should say FCPA Park Master Plan,
Yes, yes, that's what I was thinking.
because it wouldn't include WNOD.
Right, and it wouldn't include RA projects.
So here, it would go here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And why
Thank
did
you. Good.
Why did you delete in-profit contributions, since they presumably are part of what goes on? I mean, that's part of
I
the
think it's
process.
because it's already part of the
And
program.
It's probably not a great loss in taking it out. I just don't know. I didn't know if there was a reason.
I can't speak for Jennifer. I'm sorry. I just saw her edits and I thought that they were good.
I will just point out that if I have her July 28th version up, and in these two particular places, in Bill Penniman's defense, there's just comments in the side. These are not deleted, they're just highlighted. So I just want to make sure we these were highlighted, not deleted. And there might be others like that.
Lynn, didn't she send an addendum comment recently?
Yeah, and I forwarded that out to the task group. Yes.
Yeah, just a few days ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Bill Penniman's observation that this is probably a good deletion.
Overstates what I
Thanks,
said.
Bill.
I won't object.
Okay, the next one, in the TSAs, these resources are managed by Fairfax County Park Authority and private entities regulated by Fairfax County. That was
that's not true.
deemed not true. Any other discussion? Agreement?
Another verb for regulated?
Pardon?
And is there another verb for regulated? If that was your objection, is there another way to say that without using the term regulated?
What's the purpose of the sentence then?
Well, in the TSAs, the resources are managed not only by Fairfax County Park Authority, well, and private entities. We can just say period. Because Fairfax County doesn't regulate everything in the TSA.
For example, it doesn't regulate any RA facilities that may be there.
Correct.
That is our point, exactly.
That's the
fine.
point.
Just delete
That
the
is
regulated
exactly
by
the point.
Fairfax County. That's fine.
There is the WNOD trail, not to be.
It's not regulated by Fairfax County either.
I think
NOVA.
that's John's point. I think
I
that's
wish it
John's
were.
point.
It should be FCPA and FCPA, the Northern Virginia Regional Park Authority, and private entities, shouldn't it be?
Okay.
I like the graphics.
Good. Thank you. I think that's when I ran outside and took a picture of the trail. Okay. This is Performing Arts Center. This is the Block J, north of Sunset Hills Road. The facility is intended to be classified as countywide instead of serve Fairfax County.
Is there an intended change of meaning?
Pardon me?
Is there an intended change of meaning between serving Fairfax County
I think that
and
I think
classifying
that
as countywide?
the fact that it is classified as a countywide, that it would be a Fairfax County facility. Again, Jennifer is not here to be able to answer.
It doesn't change the meaning, though. It doesn't change the point. Right.
Right.
It's not designed to serve only Reston, I think is the point.
Correct. And that's understood. I just classified implies some legal rigmarole that we don't understand. But maybe somebody does.
It's also kind of beyond an awkward phrase. I think it's much more direct just to say serve Fairfax County.
Yeah.
Well, I think that saying that, I think that the nuance is that if you say the facility is intended to serve Fairfax County, you're not indicating that it is a Fairfax County facility.
But that's indicated elsewhere anyway.
Could you
Yeah.
say that the countywide facility is intended to serve Fairfax County? I don't know.
This is, aren't we, it's next to the metro. Aren't you hoping that people come from the district, Arlington,
Yes,
points west?
that's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
So
that's
serving
true. Good
Fairfax
point, Tammy.
Okay, but that still doesn't, I mean,
Yeah.
you wind up with the same issue classified as countywide. Does that preclude people from Loudoun and the district to come down here?
Well, how about if we just get rid of that whole sentence?
Or
Okay.
change it, or just change it to it is intended to be a Fairfax County facility.
Perhaps one of the implied points is that this is not simply to be funded by, it's not the financial responsibility of Small Tax District 5.
That's
Right.
addressed elsewhere.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Does that,
You took out the Fairfax County, I think.
whoops.
To be a Fairfax County facility, I think.
I think I just said as a Fairfax County facility.
That's fine. But you need to put Fairfax County back in.
Good catch. Thank you, Bill. Okay, the next one,
Lynn.
what?
Lynn, this is Charles, just a small comment.
Yeah,
In the public facilities plan where this is mentioned, for the performing arts, the word visual was inserted, so I guess it's all what it does, so. You know, we should probably correct one or the other, but I think it might have been Performing and Visual Arts Center, which implies it's not just performing, it could also be art shows, things like that.
so is Visual and Performing Arts Center here?
Yeah, we could look at the other one and just make sure it's the same thing. It has an implication as to what it's for, but why not just keep it open for everything, you know, performing and visual.
I have a problem with indoor facilities. The major indoor facilities include, well,
Which are you talk? Which
what
section
is
are you?
the- What is the top, what, Lynn, scroll up and let's see what the header on this, recommendations, natural resources. So these are possibilities if they get funding. And the Fairfax County Park Authority, that is a given. We're the only district, Hunter Mill, that doesn't have one. This Performing Arts Center is a potential thing, and the decision for that's been held off. So we don't even know if that's going to happen. It's a proposed proffer. So how do we put that in there that it's not, you don't look at this plan and go, oh, this is a done deal?
It might be tied to the visual thing too, if they couldn't get the full scope implemented.
So visual, do you all have an issue with adding visual and performing arts center?
No problem with adding performing visual and performing, however you want to do that. As far as Tammy's point, if you want to just say the major expected indoor facilities.
Yes, I would like that.
Okay, that's fine.
It should be the other way around, performing arts, performing and visual arts. The performing is first, I think, is the
I
way
was
it is.
trying to find it.
John's right on that.
Yeah.
And then I guess you got to do it again in the next, consider a performing and visual arts center. Uh-oh, John's adding words, but it's not good.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? Okay.
Maybe a period at the end of the whole paragraph would be.
Okay. Thank you, Charles.
Oh, you're welcome. My daughter's an artist,
Okay.
so we want to allow her to show there.
All right, the next edit is here. Include complimentary active and passive park features, playground, seating areas, restrooms, warm-up areas, and other amenities. So I thought these were good adds to. Any issue with accepting those changes?
No.
Okay.
Do they have the captions right on the graphics?
Yes, there's Barron Cameron Park.
Yeah.
Linear Park.
Yeah.
And playground and map. The map is down here. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. There was a new bullet added, existing athletic fields. She added local athletic fields owned by Fairfax County Park Authority and Reston Association are aging and in need of refurbishment. So,
That is the
Capital
100%.
L on local.
pardon?
Capital L on local. Small.
Good catch, John. Thank you. Does take a village. Okay, I think this was just the bullet is. Okay, and this is just editorial. I had to cut and paste this and move it up from the previous paragraph. So,
Malcolm, for that last thing that you just said, limited to FCPA and Reston Association. Unfortunately, the comprehensive plan for Reston is inclusive of an area that is west of Fairfax County Parkway, and there are a couple of other privately owned ball fields and such. They may not be needing refurbishment now, but it's not just limited to FCPA and Reston Association. On
so should
existing athletic fields.
say
You could say Fairfax County and then either RA and other private, or just simply FCPA and private, and it would be good. That works. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Good catch. Any issues with that change?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get rid of the and after FCPA.
Right.
Okay. Oh, something happened there. Okay. Okay, so this is now,
That's redundant, I guess.
well, this is where I had to cut and paste.
Right, right. That's
So,
what I'm saying. That
yeah.
red is redundant.
Right. Okay. Okay, Tia, she deleted north and south of the 3 metro stations and just put adjacent to. So I think that makes sense.
Well, actually, there's been a point made in several locations in the plan and in the last plan that at least the 2 stations that have both a north and a south, there should be a public gathering area on each side. And so
That's right.
I think Jen's change here was, and because she explained it more, but I think she misunderstood. I made this north and south change. I inserted north and south instead of adjacent to, meaning exactly what Bill Penniman just said. I think what Jen inferred incorrectly, at least from what I intended, was that it would not be within the TSAs, that this is between sunrise and sunset, period, not that it would be outside of that. So I think that was a confusion. So that is why I had put north and south for exactly that reason. We cannot depend on the metro walkway to get across there because it closes. And if metro's not working, the walkway is closed to public access.
So why would you keep the north and south?
Pardon me?
Why wouldn't we keep the north and south?
That is the point. She wanted that taken out because she thought north and south meant outside, south of sunrise, north of sunset, and that was not the this is within the TSAs. So
we would leave it, right?
We just
Leave
say
the north and south.
areas within, or within areas.
Or in areas adjacent
to TSAs.
Adjacent to both sides of the metro stations.
Well, you have to say north and south because that can be east and west.
Okay.
On ahead, you could say accessible to both sides. It gives you a little more leeway.
But I think the goal is so that we don't just have, so that these areas are activated, and having a plaza or
the point
park is important on both sides.
On both sides, yeah.
But you have to say what both sides are, and that was why I put north.
Should we put north and south adjacent to both sides in parens, north and south of the 3 metro stations?
Actually, the north and south are not totally necessary. All the metro stations through this region are in the middle of the toll road. You're not going to put parks on either side of the stations in the either side of the toll road. So you have that flexibility. Just remember that, please.
I'm not sure I understood that, Mark, but
he's saying that you wouldn't put buildings in the toll road. So
the metro stations are actually in between the toll lanes. So north and south doesn't have to be specified. It's just on either side. Works, but do what you will. Thanks.
So is this the accepted language then? So to both sides of the 3 metro stations?
Of course, it's not both sides of the Herndon station, but.
Right.
The town of Herndon is actually working a plaza right now on their side. They just put in a little more than 100,000 to how to do that, even with the private entities adjacent with learner and such. Thanks.
Leave it. We can leave it.
Okay, all right, let's move
There's some
on.
missing active verbs in the previous two paragraphs, but I assume that'll be changed.
Yeah, we'll get to that discussion later.
Yeah.
I'll fix this. This will move back to where it was. I think this is the last. Oh, no, it's not the last. Okay. Public ownership of parkland is encouraged. This was deleted. Any issue with that deletion?
Yes, ma'am. Mark Malcolm once more. And the reason for that is with respect to the Herndon Station. What has been mentioned in the comprehensive plan in the past has been and required with one of the zoning issues is a thing called a wetland that is adjacent to the Herndon Station. It is currently on private property, privately owned. It is not a park. It has been recommended in the past to be a park, and originally in Reston Land Corporation was. That is why that sentence should remain. Thanks.
It's only encouraged. It's not a threat to RA.
Yeah.
I can't see Fairfax County Park Authority paying to keep up the wetlands.
Yeah.
This
Given-
particular one, it might be, but the thing is, it's also adjacent to a Board of Supervisors property. So it's not necessarily that it may be the Park Authority. It might be that it has a concrete and other walkway across. It was designed to have a trail completely around roughly a 14-acre lake. Thanks.
Mark, isn't it a fact that the owner of that property is in violation for not keeping it up?
From everything that I've seen, absolutely positively not. As long as it remains a wetland area and it's a 14-acre man-made wetland that came from as a result of having the North Hills Shopping Center built. Anyway, thanks.
I have a problem retaining that sentence. And it's for two reasons. First of all, that Reston Association is the predominant owner of parklands in the area. It's not just an instance, it is the predominant owner of parkland. And secondly, historically, Fairfax County Park Authority has shown interest in taking over Reston Association parkland in a friendly takeover. And I just don't, I think that sentence encourages more of that kind of thinking.
Yeah, I'm with you, John. God forbid that Park Authority that can sell off their property would be able to take over RA property. And it couldn't happen with the deed anyway, but that's chilling.
Thank you, John. So I think if we just remove the sentence altogether, it doesn't harm Mark Malcolm's argument.
Concur.
But it also protects, pardon?
I agree. Remove it.
Thank you. Okay, and then we have a whole area of additional recommendations include that have all been deleted. These we've already rehashed this.
Yeah.
Open space at town center, large well-activated plazas. It's just the same thing over and over again.
Right.
So
I mean, if
reducing the text is always a good thing.
I mean, if the point is that it's all said elsewhere and it's repetitive.
Okay, and then we get into publicly accessible.
Lynn, I think Bill was trying to talk.
Oh, sorry. My comment was simply that if the point is that it's all redundant, it's said someplace else. That's
Yes.
fine. But I would just note that Jennifer's only comment was, why is volleyball included? But I'm okay with taking it out if you assure us it's repetitive.
It is repetitive.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got publicly accessible open space. Let's see. So active, this is bullet, designated privately owned, publicly accessible. That's been deleted, just says open spaces such as throughout. So this is definition of publicly accessible open space. So it's already publicly accessible.
Yeah, could I
So-
just make a comment? And one of the things that was clearly spelled out in the last plan was that if somebody put, say, a tennis court or something up on a rooftop, that would have to be also, to be counted as publicly accessible open space, they'd have to make it easy to access it and well assigned and so forth. And I don't know if we've said that anywhere here, but we should. I mean, designated privately owned, publicly accessible maybe hints at it. And
This-
that's at least better
well-
than taking.
Well,
it
this
out.
says for the purposes of this plan,
Yes.
Yeah, you have the title, so
Spaces.
maybe it's okay.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
crossed out because it's redundant to the title.
Yeah.
right.
Lynn, before we
Yes.
leave that section,
Yes.
I still find the first sentence there, for the purposes of this plan, open spaces are for public enjoyment. Some open spaces are for private enjoyment. For example, even though RA makes available many of its spaces, its paths, its parks, playgrounds, athletic field, playgrounds, picnic areas, and so forth, though it makes it available to folks, not all of RA's stuff is intended for public use.
So then it wouldn't be in a publicly accessible open space subsection. It would be private, right? Because we're talking about what the definition of publicly accessible open space is.
Oh, okay. So this is for purposes of negotiations with
Definition.
developers.
Exactly, John. That's
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, it's not
Thank you.
it's not a big thing, but why is the 4 capitalized?
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, Alvarez, I didn't hear what you said.
I said it's not a big thing, but why is the 4 made be 4? Why is that 4 capitalized?
Definition of publicly accessible open space bolded is the title of the subsection.
No, the sentence.
Yes, I know. It's the beginning of the
This is the
sentence.
beginning of the sentence.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was misreading it. Made be. I was
Yeah.
putting the thing down below.
That's
It's
okay.
Got it.
Okay, and then identify publicly accessible open by providing wayfinding signs that welcome users. This was deleted.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, then calculation of publicly accessible open space. The open space goal is 20% of the usable net lot area. So that was, I thought, a great catch.
I didn't understand what that meant. Is there a non-usable net lot area? I don't know.
Yes, water.
Well,
for
there may,
example.
yeah. The street,
That wouldn't be
Streets
part
are
of the net
usable.
lot, but
Streets are
Okay.
very usable.
Not for open space. I guess you could have a street,
No, it is, but when you say usable, I agree with John. It's not clear what that means. That's all.
I mean, there's no such thing as a not usable net lot area.
Remember when this, well, yeah, I think it's to the net is the issue here, John Carter.
Yeah.
We got a lot of this in P and Z where people were not taking into account that they could not use the street area as part of their, open space. So
what
it's
about RPA or EQCs?
EQC would be included in the net lot area. The street would not, but
yes, that is correct. But
So,
water would not be, would it, John Carter?
yes, it would be.
It would be?
Or it would be, yeah. Stream Valley or something like that.
No,
would
I'm
be part-
talking about the ponds. We had a big issue of that. at
Yeah, they
P&Z,
would be included
where
in
they
the
were
net
saying they had zillions of square feet of usable open space, and we all said we couldn't walk on water, so how is it usable?
lot. It would be included in the net lot area. certainly.
Okay.
yeah, I think this is one where we should defer to John's expertise because a phrase like net lot area has certain magic to it. There's a parenthetical that excludes things like streets and a certain part of the neighboring areas, but I would take out the word usable because I don't understand it. It would take another sentence to explain it.
And on the other side of that, when you put usable in, then that reduces the amount of open space required. If it's 20% of the total net lot, that would be a larger number than if you said ponds weren't included.
So you think we should take it out?
I would take it out.
Okay. Thank you. And then this sentence, some portions of the 20% goal may be more readily located in the immediate proximity of the TSAs.
Yeah, I'd take it out.
Okay, implementation in Reston neighborhoods provide appropriate parks, recreation, open space. That's so
Could take it
this
out.
is redundant.
Yeah.
Accomplish recreation of open spaces, parks, and recreational amenities without sacrificing Reston's viable existing amenities or replace with new facility types. So the word, parks and recreation amenities was added. And then Reston's viable existing open space was deleted.
Yeah, because that limits the amenity.
Okay.
Open space. We don't need to do that.
This is coming directly from RA, right? So
It's coming from Jennifer. I don't know what was feeding into her. Okay, or replace with new facility types. Okay, and then she added many of the facilities in the neighborhoods are aging and are in need of revitalization. Public-private partnerships between Fairfax County Park Authority and Reston Association will be essential to maintaining and improving parks, recreational amenities, and open space system in Reston to achieve the vision of this plan. Private partnerships are also encouraged. Do we want to delete this based on our previous discussion?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about that. Will be essential. We didn't want to give too much guidance before. Why would we push? I mean, it may be fine, but if
Tammy, what if you
Park Authority and RA are going to work together, they'll work together. But why would we put that forward in a plan?
What if you changed it to public-private partnerships between FCPA and RA may be valuable, may be useful to, and just leave it, and that's softer.
Yeah.
But at least maybe encourages consideration whether or not it's ever approved.
I don't think you want to lose the first part of it that says they are aging and need revitalization.
Yes, no, we
That's
don't
true.
want to lose that. How about may be useful?
Or public-private partnerships between FCPA and RA are encouraged to maintain and improve parks, etc.
But I thought we just said that that's not something that was good for RA to pursue.
Well, that's
What
up
John,
to,
if,
that's up
what
to
John
the-
just said changed it from FCPA, public-private partnerships with RA may be useful to maintaining, and then who it is and how it's done is completely vague, but maybe that's what you want.
So maybe,
yeah. May be useful. I think that is better than essential. John Carter, do you agree?
I guess I agree. I'm concerned about RA. If that's what they like, then I'm
Yeah,
okay
well,
with
that's
it.
why I'm very
well,
concerned.
they'll
too.
have a chance to edit this as well,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
It directs
Good.
things to what RA is supposed to do, and we were staying
yeah, I
away
don't
from
want to
that.
get into dictating to RA anything.
Yeah.
And it would be maybe useful in maintaining and improving, I guess.
Yeah, that would be.
And having worded it that way, the last sentence, private partnerships are also encouraged.
Can
Can
get
be-
rid of
that
that.
can be deleted.
Yeah, that's right.
Ah,
Is it? Is this the last?
yes. Thank you all.
I just
So-
have to say that I think this is a very strong chapter. I think this is very well written.
I make a motion to approve this chapter as amended.
Okay, it's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion to endorse this chapter has been made and seconded. Any additional discussions? Okay, then let's go to a vote. As before, raise your electronic hand after the countdown. I will count down first for ayes, for everyone in support of this, endorsing this chapter as amended this evening. Raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 9. Okay, go ahead and put your hands down electronically. Right. Okay.
Alvarez's hand is still
Yeah,
up.
Alvarez, go ahead and lower your hand. There we go. Got it. Very good. Okay, all opposed to endorsing this chapter as amended this evening, raise your electronic hands in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I see 4 opposed. Okay, go ahead and put your hands down. How many abstain? Go ahead and raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 2 abstentions. So that motion carries 9 in favor, 4 opposed with 2 abstentions. All right, Len, very good. Any final comments on this one?
No, I do want to just thank Jennifer and everyone that spent so much time pulling this chapter together. And I know that Reston Association is going to, be adding to it. And I think I agree with John Carter that it really is a fabulous chapter. So, and thanks to John for the great photos.
Some
All
of
right,
it.
Lynn, thank
And
you
the
very,
formatting.
And yeah,
And John.
yes, Lynn, thank you. Thank you, John, also. And yeah, somebody please do let Jennifer know that almost all of her suggestions were incorporated, even though she wasn't here. So,
Could,
yeah.
Walter, could I ask a question?
Sure, Bill.
Yeah, if RA is going to be amending what the task force approved, is it going to come back to the task force? I thought only the task force could amend the document.
Well, the task force is making this recommendation, and the task force recommendation will be the task force recommendation. I would expect there'll be
RA,
additional. What's that?
sure, RA can certainly comment and recommend further changes. That understood.
That's right.
yeah, I think I misspoke, Bill. I didn't intend to say amend. I meant that they would be editing and.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Okay, anything else on parks and open space before we move on? Okay, well, let's go next. And I know we're making progress. I know this is still, we still have a little ways to go, but now let's go to John Mooney. John, you had a 4-page document you sent around. I believe you'll be
Actually,
speaking.
yeah, it's
that?
4 pages. Yep.
All right, take
But
it
the
away,
business end of it is much shorter than 4. There are 6 questions to answer. So, can you please put that up, Lisa? The transportation chapter issues for task force decision.
And John, while she's doing that, let me just say, this may be the source of some of the issues that will be flagged during public engagement. I know some of these items that you have flagged have been a lot of discussion on the task force, a lot of discussion in your transportation subgroup, and are not unanimous, although in each of these cases, there will be a majority opinion of the task force.
Thank you. So, the reason the document I sent out to you all on Friday was 4 pages rather than a single half sheet with 6 questions is I wanted to give you enough background so I wouldn't have to yak at you tonight. So I'm going to make the assumption that you've read it enough to be able to form a fully informed decision and vote on these issues. These have been raised by, I've indicated who has raised the issues and who opposes them. So I am, what I will do is simply read the question, the 6 questions, ask if there are any questions for further information that you want from me or from someone else, and I will and then we will discuss and vote. Okay, I hope we can do this expeditiously. Does that make sense?
I think you're going to need the graphic, John.
Okay. And we do have a graphic for some of them, and Lisa's ready to put that up too. Okay, but I was going to that graphic, yes, absolutely. So the first question is, should we restore the LOS level of service goals back into the chapter for both the TSAs and the non-TSAs, with the TSAs being the more sensitive? Now, I promised that I would give this report to you. I got a call from Paris yesterday. Gary Maupin called concerned about this because he and his dear wife are on their way to a trip in Morocco, but he wanted to call and ask me to make sure everyone knew that he was strongly opposed to restoring LOSE. for the TSAs. I told him I would, and his reasons against it are included in the reasons against it listed here. And he also asked me to say that he was against do-overs, which we're doing tonight. So he thought we voted already and we shouldn't be doing do-overs. And I promised he basically says we need to finish this thing. So I promised him I would give that report. So are there any questions about the LOSE issue?
What, is this an intent to reduce the density in the TSAs? 'Cause
It
that's
is
what it looks like.
absolutely not.
How do you know that?
What this is, the question is, how do you ensure the best allocation, the best balanced allocation of signal time and travel space for vehicles on the one hand and for active transportation users, especially pedestrians, on the other. So by having LOS, so the default position throughout the county, if there's nothing in the comprehensive plan, the default level is D, which means that autos would have to be allocated more signal time and more travel space so that they could achieve a level D rather than being satisfied with a level of E, which means they have to face more congestion. That's the issue.
Wasn't this solved in the last time that there is a memorandum of understanding between Fairfax County, which would include
Yes.
the DOT as well as the supervisors that said this precise thing? And so why would we restate it in the plan? My concern is it basically reduces the density in the TSAs is really what this accomplishes. And so far, the use of this level of service has been very detrimental in some areas. And I use the Boston properties development where we have 7 lanes along Sunset Hills, and it's very difficult unless you're Carl Lewis and can run the 100 yards, and you can't get across the streets. And so using LOSE has been detrimental, I think. And I worry about it's when you do this, it effectively will reduce the density in the TSAs. And maybe that's what people want to do. And it's redundant. We already have that. My own perspective.
John, where do we have it?
Hmm?
Where
we have
do
that
we have
now. We use it now in the TSAs.
Right.
And it has been to the detriment of the design of most of our projects that are close. It makes it very difficult to get to the metro stations. And I don't know what the actual results of our plan would be. How many level of service E's are there? Are there some F's? I don't know. And it seems like it's redundant. My own version of this, and I recognize that this may not hold true in Fairfax, is that operational considerations do not belong in comp plans, that they belong in the policy plan or they belong in actions by the Board of Supervisors. And, next year we might come up with a different way to use LOS, and there are many, many other ways. So I just was concerned, we voted on this before, and I'm concerned that its impact on the TSAs is not a good one, both from a design perspective and also from a density perspective. Now, so my understanding is LOS is the standard in the TSAs.
I beg your pardon?
It is the standard in the TSAs because of that memorandum of understanding between the Board of Supervisors and state DOT. In the neighborhoods, my understanding is level of service D is also the standards, but I'm less sure about that. So anyway, that's.
You are correct on that. LOSD is the default standard throughout the county. John, this is not merely operational, because if LOSD became the norm, it could be that we would have to increase travel lane space.
Yeah, that's
So
my
it is
concern.
also structural.
Yeah, that's my concern. So
Well,
I see Bill has his hand up.
I beg your pardon, Walter?
I see Bill has his hand up, his real hand.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think this is an absolutely critical issue for the success of the TSAs. As I understand it, and John can correct me if I'm wrong, but if it is not mentioned as LOSE, then the memorandum of understanding doesn't apply. It has to be mentioned in the comp plan. So silence is not an answer. In the plan, I mean, we tried to reread the whole thing, all 170 pages, and there are way over a dozen places where the plan says that successful, safe walkability is vital to the TSAs and to Reston. And the idea that we would substitute LOSD in the TSAs, more specifically in the TOD areas, is something that would be, it would just completely undermine the success of those areas. It would be too long to walk. People wouldn't walk. So what would they do? They'd get in their car and go somewhere. And it would hurt us all for the cost of a minute, maybe 2 minutes in a day, a little longer. It's just not worth it. We should do it. And as to the do-over thing, I'll note that Supervisor Alcorn specifically invited people who wanted to make any revisits to do it. And I put in a request that we revisit this one because I do think it's critical and it is going to cause very little real inconvenience. And if people say, well, the TSAs are too large an area, at least do it in the TOD areas for LFC. Thank you.
You're not concerned that this undermines the density? Aren't there level of service E or F intersections in the TSAs today? I think there are.
Yeah, and so if you went to D, it would undermine the density. It would undermine the potential density
I'm
in the
concerned
area.
that E would undermine the density. Level of
No.
service E will undermine.
No.
No, quite the opposite. Because it would require accelerating traffic to meet
You're
the
sure?
D level.
You're sure that
Yes.
there are no intersections that are level service F?
Oh, are you asking, should we go to F? Well, I'd be
No,
open
no,
to
I'm not
discussion.
saying go to F. I'm just saying if the limit is E, are we undermining the density that's in the TSAs? I think we are.
I don't understand why, John.
Yeah.
I don't understand why. And if it goes to D, that means that potentially, in order to meet the standard of D, which means giving more signal time and more travel space to motor vehicles, that could take space away from development.
I'm not saying we should go to D. I'm saying, is E the right standards? And I'm not sure it is, because I think we have some intersections in the TSA that do not meet the E standard. And so effectively of putting E in here, you will undermine the density proposed in the plan.
Can I ask Mike Garcia, I believe is an attendee, to come on, because I think,
That would be good.
yeah, I think there may be a couple of different understandings of what's in play here. And because I believe what I've heard is if the comp plan does not specify a level of service, the default is D. And John Carter, I just heard you talk about with the example of the Boston Properties Project
Yeah.
and Sunset Hills basically having to build 7 lanes
Yes.
to meet level of service E.
Right.
So going to a level of service D, how many lanes would that have required?
Well, that would be more.
Yeah, I think that's
I'm
right.
just questioning LOS at all.
Yeah.
The problem is that silence defaults to D.
I don't think so, because there's a memorandum of understanding between the county DOT and the Board of Supervisors with the state that says we're using the LOSE at this point.
If, John, only if it is in the comprehensive plans.
Yeah,
I'll be happy to
actually-
share that
I don't
document
know.
with you.
Ask
Yep.
Mike.
Yeah, Mike just got on. Mike, if you could clarify, help us with this a little bit.
Sure. I seem to have some issue with my video, but there we go. So the memorandum of understanding, John Mooney's correct, does rely on the fact that it needs to be in the comprehensive plan. So if you take it out, then it can almost make the Reston portion null and void, which then goes back to a level of service D. So we think it's definitely something we should keep in. And I'll also say that we definitely use it as a guide. We really make sure that we balance all users and make sure that we are accommodating pedestrians and bikes through this. But at least giving us the lower level of standard allows us to not have to make so many travel lanes for cars and gives us a chance to kind of make it more urban. So that's the goal.
And Mike, if I could just follow up with one question. I think, our system, it's the level of service projected once a project and other projects around are built out, right? So it's a planned level of service, if you will.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's not what's going on today at a particular intersection, which in
Right.
many cases I know has improvements in the pipeline or in the future.
That's correct.
Are there any intersections in the TSAs that exceed this standard?
There are intersections that operate below the standard, meaning that they aren't achieving level of service E. And
Yeah.
there are instances when staff and VDOT will weigh all of that. And what we try to say is do no harm, which means don't make it any worse with your development. So if you can add grid links or do other types of pedestrian or bicycle improvements that help facilitate and provide other transportation needs and facilities, and we take that as kind of a balanced approach and saying that's what we can get out of this without having to make anything wider. So that's kind of where we use it.
I'm just concerned that the LOS as a standard has led to us adding a lot of lanes. And I use Boston Properties and Wheatley both as examples where we have 7 lanes and you cannot get across the street. There's no, and that's what LOS has led to. So anyway, I won't extend this. I get the point that you have to put something in place. Otherwise, the memorandum of understanding is not in effect. I get that. I am concerned that LOS has not served us well. And we are challenged in Reston and in other places of getting to the metro stations using this as a standard.
I would just say it's definitely it's a goal, not a standard. And then there are times when we have to balance our goals to make sure that we accommodate other users and other facilities. So if we go below it, that's okay.
Okay, Mike, thank you. Thank you, John Carter. John Mooney, what is your pleasure on this item?
Let's take a vote.
Okay, are you making a motion or?
So the question would be, should we restore LOS goals back into the chapter, both for TSAs and non-TSAs? And so for TSAs, it is, the goal is at least an LOS level E. For non-TSA, it's aiming at a level D.
Okay, John, questions? All right, so I heard John make a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, I just heard a second, and before I call for any discussion and a vote, I would just note this will definitely, no matter how this vote turns out, this will definitely be an item flagged for public engagement and additional discussion. So, John
And
Mooney?
Walter, so as I've said many times before, I'm authorized only to vote on those things that the Reston Association Board of Directors has authorized me to vote on. This is one of 2 things tonight that it's authorized me to vote on. So.
Oh, you're going to vote?
Don't be surprised.
All right, thank you. That'll help in my counting.
John, your hand is still up from last time.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Is there any discussion, any further discussion on this by task force members?
This is Lynn. I
Yeah,
just
Lynn,
want to
please.
say that there are several folks that are absent from tonight's meeting that I think would have something to say about this. I think that when we voted on this item last June, that it was a pretty overwhelming vote to remove the LOS reference from the comprehensive plan. So I just want to note that there are a lot of folks that may be voting against the inclusion tonight. So thank you.
And Walter, Gary asked whether if it were possible that he be registered as a no vote. And
Yeah,
even though,
I was asked that earlier, and because we do not have that rule in place and task force members were not notified ahead of time, I've said no. You need to be present to vote.
okay.
So any additional discussion?
Malcolm,
Okay.
I have one. I just want to make sure that everyone heard and that I had the correct understanding. The lack of inclusion in the comprehensive plan means that the memorandum of understanding does not apply in the area.
That is correct, Mark. And then we would revert by default to the D standard in the policy transportation plan. The policy part of the comprehensive plan, the transportation section of that policy plan, which makes it a D.
And with that, I thank you. Just wanted to make that very clear because that was one of the key considerations in the vote several months ago for why it was not included, because the MOU would be in force. It would not be. That's why there is a reason for its inclusion.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, John. Any additional discussion before voting? Okay, then let's, looks like all hands are down. So all in favor of this motion, and John, do you want to restate it one more time?
Yes. So the question is, should we restore the LOS levels of service goals back into the chapter, both for TSAs, which would be level E, LOS E, and non-TSA areas, which would be LOS level D?
Okay, so all in favor of restoring that, please raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think I count 10, but let me count it again. Yes, 10 in favor. Okay, go ahead and take hands down. Okay, John Mooney. And
Yeah, I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do it here.
all right, no problem.
There you go.
Okay, and I see Josh Verka has his hand up. Okay, there we go. All right, all opposed to reinserting LOS levels as articulated by John Mooney, raise your electronic hands in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 4 opposed. Okay, go ahead and take your hand down. Hands. And let's go for abstentions. All abstaining on this motion, raise your electronic hands in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and I see one abstention who is not John Mooney, but one abstention yet. Okay, thank you. John, turn it back over to you.
Okay, item 2 is, should we restore American Dreamway as a road without gates, allowing public motor vehicle traffic between Sunset Hills and Old Reston Avenue? So I gave the somewhat complicated history of it, but I will, since I have it written down and you've had a chance to read it, I will be quiet now and ask if there are any questions about this.
I have a comment. This has been decided by the Board of Supervisors, I think, when they approved the Fannie Mae plan. So this is a moot point.
Yeah, I don't know why you would undermine the Board of Supervisors with this.
I agree.
So this
So
is
I would-
Bill.
I think
The reason it's on is because we did not vote on it.
Can
Okay,
you
I
put
think
it?
you should show the graphic when you do this, because I'm not sure people
Okay.
understand what's going
Lisa,
on.
would you put it up, please? The wheelie graphic.
Here's, John, I'm going to
Yep.
recommend something
Just a moment.
that might move us along a little faster. Could we take the next 3 paragraphs together and then pin up the graphic to show what the issue is?
Okay, we can certainly, well,
Not sure we can.
let's do 1 and 2. Let's do 2 and 3 together, John. They fit together better. It'll be the same graphic. So number 3 is, should we restore the proposed road link between American Dreamway and North Shore Drive, which itself assumes that American Dreamway has become a publicly accessible road without gates between Sunset Hills and Old Reston Avenue.
So it is not. So I think both of these items, 2 and 3, I think that the link between Sunset Hills and North Shore Drive using American Dreamway, which is a private drive, and the gates, the Fannie Mae application has been approved to include gates.
Right.
I don't know why gates are coming up. That's again an operational thing. We close streets all the time. I don't know why this is coming up.
But it's a private drive, though. I don't understand how.
To me, the issue is the
Fairfax County.
graphic, and the only concern in the graphic, the only change I would recommend is to delete that connection between the American Dreamway and North Shore. Leave the rest of it the way it is. And that's pretty much what the Board of Supervisors has already decided.
Yeah. John, I am not advocating against that. I'm just saying we did not decide those 2 things when we voted on the transportation plan on June the 13th.
I know. I'm just trying to hurry this along
Yep.
so we get
So-
to the specifics. So see, American Dreamway is shown on the map, and I think that's correct. What's not correct, or to me, what should not be added, is this connection from in the inset. I would delete the inset and leave the rest of it the same.
So and that is exactly so. If you look at the main map, which is the task force, well, which is it is a possible task force map.
Right.
American Dreamway is not designated as a publicly accessible road for motor vehicles, nor is there a link between American Dreamway and North Shore Drive. All we need to do is make a decision on that.
And I would just like to point out that the graphic that you all are looking at on your screen is not the most current iteration that is in the current plan draft.
Oh, boy.
John, could I
Why?
make a comment?
Go ahead, Bill. Lynn, could you clarify that point? I don't understand it.
The graphic that is in the current plan draft includes the call out that we added, John. You remember?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
No, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that's true. The only one I had that I could make scalable is this one, Lynn.
Okay.
That's why I use this one. Yeah, the one Lynn and I agreed on how we were going to nominate, how we were going to designate that. We've added another note onto the inset, and that note says the task force has not endorsed Fairfax County DOT's recommendation as shown in the inset map. So that is, I said that in words, Lynn. I did not say that. I did not put it up because I didn't have a scalable version of it. So
Again, I think if you just vote to delete the inset, leave the rest of it the same, we're A-okay.
okay.
Good.
So let us, I
Could
will,
John, can I talk?
sure.
Okay. I think the point of this is that the staff has indicated that there would be value to creating a grid situation by using the existing roadway, potentially. It isn't a commitment or an approval that it be done. Simply, it allows the staff to look further at it, possibly negotiate with the owner. It's unlikely that they would try eminent domain to seize it. So it simply allows a process to proceed. It doesn't approve anything. None of the new roads on here are approved. Most of them involve privately owned property. It may be parking lots, it may be somewhere else. So it's not an approval. It simply allows the county staff to consider whether there would be net benefits to the public by enhancing the grid of streets. And I understand that there are people on North Shore who are wary of it, and that's fine. Totally understand that. But that's all it is at this stage, is to just allow for further consideration.
With all due respect to Mr. Penniman's comments, I believe that the community has expressed their angst about the consideration of this. And this is a similar thing to the 4 or 5 years that the community went through trying to combat the road from nowhere that miraculously showed up on the grid of streets in the current plan draft or the current plan. And I think that it is an irritant and it should be removed. I think that Supervisor Alcorn and Commissioner Carter have already heard from individuals who live adjacent to Fannie Mae regarding this concept, and I think it should be removed. I agree with Commissioner Carter. Thank you.
And
I
to
would
further
like
that,
to,
if
jump
I
in
can,
here and say that I personally like options. And if there's an option down the road that shows that we can do this without disturbing the neighbors, I understand their dilemma. If there's an option down the road, it would be nice to be able to take it. If we don't put it in there, then the option would go away. So that's my feeling. Thank you.
Jan, to your feelings, this plan for Fannie Mae has been approved. What has been approved is an extremely dense residential cluster. You cannot have a road linking into it and put more traffic. They won't be able to handle the cluster traffic they have, let alone anybody trying to cut through their cluster. So you have to say, where do I live? Do I have a parking lot where in my building? Do I want that to be a public roadway as a cut through that potentially hundreds of people could use a day? No. And this is an approved plan. This is not a speculation of what's going to happen. The county has approved the plan for Fannie Mae.
Okay.
American Dreamway will remain a private road. You cannot link up a public road with a private road. So
Incorrect.
a private person does
Incorrect.
not agree, and they're not going to agree because they don't want more traffic, A, in their commercial parking lot for their building, or B, in their already overloaded cluster access. So it's a no go. It's not giving options. It's like, would you do that to your neighbor? No, you would not.
Can others speak?
You
Mike?
can now.
Yeah, with all due respect to traffic engineer Petrine, I think the option of having this link is, I agree with Jan, have it later as an option. And, you know, there are plenty of cases with county roads intersecting private streets. I live on a private street. It's connected with the county road. So let's just be careful with some of the statements made as fact.
You would be making a cut through, not connecting a private road. You would be making a cut through where the public would be using the private road to go between one public road, private road, to another public road. And that's, as I said, if you look at the plan, Mr. Jennings, and you have seen the plan, you sit on RPZ, you know the challenges of that.
I don't agree that there's big challenges. Again, you're imprinting your feelings on this plan, and you know,
on a road
Okay,
that is not public and doesn't have the right of way on each side.
Okay. This is not a time for a debate. It is a time for people to make their points. And John Carter, if you don't mind, let's proceed as I first proposed. Let us vote one by one. So I've already made the motion. It's been seconded. So I'm going to call the motion. Should we restore American Dreamway as a plan, as a road without gates, allowing public motor vehicular traffic between Sunset Hills and Old Reston Avenue? Okay.
A second.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded. Does everyone understand the motion?
I again, you know, this is undermining the Board of Supervisors big time.
Yes.
And I think that's an
They do.
unfortunate. It's the gate issue, and we have many roads in Reston where we close them off from time to time. This is not a time to be adding the gates. That should not be part of a comp plan. I think it should be restored as a road. It's on the map now, but it's the gate issue. And if you want to undermine the Planning and Zoning Committee and the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, then put this gate through. But I just think that is an unfortunate, and the task force is not privy to all the public testimony that's occurred on this, and adding the gates is not appropriate. I don't think.
Well, can we make a motion that has the gates out of there? Make a motion of the American Dream
That's what
That would be okay.
what it is.
without gates.
I don't think we need to mention gates or not gates. The only way
I would recommend.
the only way it would ever work is if the county struck a deal with the property owners that made them happy. Maybe they get paid some money. I don't know how it happens.
Yeah.
But all we're doing is keeping a door open, and if everybody gets happy, and then they can revisit it.
I think you're right, Bill. If you just eliminate the gates, you're okay.
I don't understand what the gates are, but
Okay.
I recollect, if I could add something here, my recollection is that the option of the gates for the developer was simply if the developer found a sensitive occupant,
right,
who wanted to have access control. But to my knowledge, no sensitive occupant has been identified nor signed a lease. So if there is no sensitive occupant, then there is no gate. There's no need for any gate. And that, my understanding, is the developer's agreement.
So then the
That's
motion
true.
could be changed.
So why would you add the word gates? I don't see why you would undermine the supervisors and all, and the community to do this. I just think this is unfortunate.
I agree with Commissioner Carter.
all it is
John, the sentence in the first, it says in a road without gates. We're not adding gates.
Why do
This
you
motion does not add gates.
It says a road without gates. Why do you have to add that? That's already been decided.
It's there.
John, I now understand your point. We can, as the mover, I would ask that we strike the word as a road without gates. Okay,
There you go. That would be appropriate.
okay. That was not the main point. But allowing motor vehicular traffic between Sunset Hills and Old Reston Avenue. Will the seconder accept that?
Yes. Yes.
Beg your pardon?
Yes.
Okay. Call the question, Walter.
Okay, so the question's been called. Let's go ahead and have everyone vote on this. So all in favor of the revised language, and John, did you take that out or? I guess that's in Lisa's document. There we go. That's the revised language. And you're muted, John.
Restore American Dreamway to the map because it had been on the map erroneously. It was by task force mistake that it was on the map at all. But the question is, so allow American Dreamway to be a publicly accessible motor vehicular traffic route between Sunset Hills and Old Reston Avenue.
Okay, so that's the motion. All in favor of adding that, please raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 5 in favor. Okay, go ahead and put your hands down. All opposed to adding that language that John Mooney read, please raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See 3 opposed. And I'll call for abstentions. All abstaining on this motion, please raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I see 3 abstentions. Okay, that motion passes.
Now the effect of this is basically, there's no text in the plan now that says this, and so I assume we wouldn't add any text. And it is not a change to the map. Is that the effect of this? You're muted, John.
John, the effect of it would be to make, since it passed, the effect of it would be to make American Dreamway again a blue road.
Oh,
So Lisa, can you put it back up again, please?
So John, that would be
I just wonder.
if and when it comes back through rezoning or some other action is taken, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I would just point out that for this property, actually, the comprehensive plan was under the zoning until about 2 weeks ago. So this comprehensive plan, if you will, had led this property beyond what was allowed under the zoning until very recently. So this wouldn't be the first time that there is something in the comp plan that is out in front of what's in the current zoning.
So this would become blue and there would be no text that would go with this.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. John Mooney, keep going.
Item number 3, should we restore the proposed road link between American Dreamway and North Shore Drive? So,
You've heard enough from me on that, so.
Okay.
You've heard it from me as well.
Okay.
This is Lynn.
Gotcha.
Again, I want to say these townhouses.
This is crazy.
Hello?
This is absolutely
right
crazy.
To American
Lynn.
Dreamway
Yep.
have no opportunity to park a car between the road and their garage, let alone having it a public road. So think about that. You're going to have people backing out of their garages onto a road with huge traffic. Is that
Tammy.
safe? Is that smart?
Tammy, we're not deciding that. All we're saying is that the county staff can look at it. By putting it on a map, they can look at it. And if the facts are as you say, they won't do it.
Again, the reason this is here is because our vote on June 13th was inconclusive on this. It was a 7-7-3 vote. That's why we have to vote tonight. Okay.
The only thing that after that vote, the Planning and Zoning Committee, the Planning Commission, and the Board of Supervisors did vote on this to exclude it. And don't forget, there are two options for Fannie Mae. One is an all office project, which is 3 office buildings. That is large. The other is a much smaller residential. The impact on North Shore is significant if you add this. And the impact on old Reston Avenue is significant. So anyway.
Okay. Let's call the question.
This is for question number 3.
This is for question number 3. John Mooney.
Number 3 again. Should we restore because it was on an earlier map? Should we restore the proposed road link between American Dreamway and North Shore Drive?
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and vote electronically. And John Mooney, you're.
This is the second one I'm allowed to vote on.
Okay. All right. So all in favor of the motion as articulated by John Mooney, raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Is this, I'm sorry, this is for it.
Correct. This is in favor. Yes,
Yep.
for it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I count 6 in favor. Okay, go ahead and lower your hands. All right, everybody's down. All opposed to the motion, please raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Five opposed. Okay. Okay, go ahead and lower your hands and abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One abstention. Nope, two abstentions. Yep.
What was RA's vote on this? Were you voting for RA?
I was authorized by RA to vote against the link, and I did.
And there were 2 abstentions, mine and somebody else's.
Two abstentions. So that motion carries 6 in favor, 5 opposed with 2 abstentions.
I'm surprised.
Again, sorry, John, I would like to note to the task force that there are significant members that have a vote that have not been able to attend tonight.
And that goes for other people besides the ones you're
One.
talking about, Lynn.
One.
No.
We have several.
We have several.
Mhm.
Mark Looney, David Gill.
David Gill is here. He was here.
Well, he had to leave for a previous appointment, so.
So did Bruce Ramo.
Well, okay, well, I'm just saying, it's not just one group of people that isn't represented, it's everybody, come on.
Okay, John Mooney, you gonna keep going?
The fourth question is,
Did you get the second one, John? This was the third one. Did you get the second one?
Yes.
yes. The second one was American Dreamway.
With gates or not gates.
Right.
Restoring it to public access.
Okay.
Right. So number 4 is, this is an issue raised by John Carter. Could you,
Oh, yeah. Show that we need the graphic for that.
yes. So Lisa, would you put the wheelie graphic up again? And could you blow it up a bit larger? Or does that work?
That works.
So the question is, should we remove the north-south street through the middle of Association Drive area and relocate the east-west connection to the Wheelie Metro Station to the northern edge of the Association Drive area?
Can you use an arrow or something
John,
to point
so-
out what you're talking
So
about?
the Association Drive area is right about down here, isn't it, John?
Where?
We have to put a cursor on it. Lisa's gonna have to do that.
Can you see it?
No cursor. There you go.
Somebody's putting the cursor.
There it went.
Can you see it?
Nope.
Nope.
Up on the
Oh, I
top
can
of the
see it.
page.
Yeah.
It's off the map, the top under styles. Oh, here's an arrow.
John,
Do
you
I have
had, Lisa,
You
do you
don't-
have control of the cursor?
There she does. Yeah.
Okay.
Right there. That's it. Right there. Now, do you see that open space in the middle of Association Drive? That's where the trees that Larry Butler talked about. Those are some of the largest trees that we have. And then you'll see the blue line goes through, looks like 2 buildings. Now, in the Heritage Resources chapter, it talks about the potential to preserve some of those buildings. And in the land use plan, it talks about preserving the trees. So we're in conflict with those 2 chapters with this design. I don't question that we need a connection, and I would put it to the north that gets you over to the Wheelie Metro Station, but that's a design issue. So I would delete that east-west connection, move it to the north, and delete the north-south connection. Otherwise, you have to change the other 2 chapters.
Hey, John, just to
Yeah.
for me to understand better, so there is this line. There are 4 lines coming off of
Right,
Sunrise Valley, and you're talking about the second from the left.
right, right.
And are you talking about it eliminating it all the way to the toll road, or just up to the
No,
east-west
That's
line?
the soapstone connection that's on the cursor.
No, not that one.
Lisa, it's the one to the right of the one where your cursor.
There
it
you
is.
go. Right.
Okay,
So
so are you talking about just that one section where the cursor is, or all the
Yes.
way up to?
well, you need to connect from the toll road down, but not through the buildings.
Okay, so it's just that one section.
Yeah. And it's the east-west section as well that needs to go.
The east-west section as well?
That one right there. See, that goes right through the buildings, and that green space is the open space that people wanted to preserve. That's what Larry Butler has been telling us about the size of those trees in that area.
Are there no places you could move that east-west section so
Yes,
that there is?
You move it to the north.
John, I'd also point out that the landscape of Association Drive is considered significant too. So it's the entire
Yes.
layout of the whole complex.
Yeah.
So the road for the middle of it is from east-west, north-south is conflicting with the heritage plan. I don't
Yes.
disagree that there needs to be a look at how we can manage traffic there, but as presented, it conflicts.
You see, there's
Well, then-
existing roads there. If you use those existing roads, then I think this mostly goes away rather than
okay.
create new ones. You see the existing ones?
Yes, the white line.
Yeah.
The white
link.
lines, yes.
I've spoken with John King, who had huddled with Mike Garcia on this, and I would like it to invite Mike to explain why Fairfax County DOT did it this way. Mike?
Yes, hi, hopefully you can hear me. So this is a conceptual map, and it's meant to kind of show what can happen if any portion of the site redevelops. Again, it's kept conceptual for a reason, in that we just have one kind of east-west link, which we thought would be kind of helpful, and then breaking the blocks up into more manageable pieces is why we chose the other links. The roads can move to avoid a building or to avoid a clump of trees, be more context sensitive. They don't have to be designed necessarily in this way, but it is meant to show that a grid with any sort of redevelopment is kind of expected, again being context sensitive to the natural and built environment.
But Mike, why would you, this one is directly in conflict with the other two chapters. Why would you produce a plan that directly conflicts both the trees and the buildings in this? I just don't understand whether it's conceptual or not conceptual. I don't see why you don't want the chapters in sync.
So the other part is it really is only maybe there's one east-west and one north-south link that are kind of in the Association Drive area.
Right.
I'm not quite sure where else you draw this to break up the blocks if there were redevelopment were to occur. And then not only that, but if you see how it matches up with the property to the east that is south of Wheelie Reston Avenue, we tried to make a cohesive uh, grid pattern in here, so which is why you kind of see more everything kind of evened out.
I think
This
if you
is
just
Chris
follow
Daniel
the white
with,
lines, you'd be okay.
yeah, I was gonna say, this is Chris Daniel. With all due respect, this is the kind of planning that got us into the situation with the soapstone corrector where there was a challenge of Association Drive.
Yeah.
And the Architecture Review
Thank
Board
you.
having to highlight that it was a property that needed to be properly studied because lines were drawn on maps that didn't properly think about the buildings that were already there. I understand the soapstone connector is going where it's going, and that is a done deal, and that's locked in and it's been consulted on. But drawing a line here going through these buildings just totally countermands another section of the plan, unless the idea is that gets stripped out later by a staff section. And they don't have to be grids. We can do other things, right?
Right.
You know what I'm gonna
100%.
do? I'm gonna defer to the Department of Planning and Development for how this kind of gets balanced with the other parts of the text.
You have existing roads there. I don't know why you wouldn't follow the existing roads. Rather than just barge right through the buildings and right through the open space. I don't get it.
One possibility, John, is that the existing roads don't actually connect up. There's the road that comes off Association Sunrise Valley, and that's just to the left of this blue line. And then there's some other ones, but I don't know if there's anything that actually would connect this area back to the transit station. And maybe you can do it along the edge up there. That's possible.
Bill, there is a connection from the Association Drive to like that new apartment building there. I mean, it's like one.
Does it go through?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I don't understand why you want conflicting chapters. I just don't get it. I don't care if it is conceptual.
I'll say that the Department of Transportation is trying to effectively allow for redevelopment where it does want to occur. So if it does, then this is the manner in which it can. It does not have to. You can have, if you prefer, you can always try to say, here is a possibility of another potential concept that is a little bit more kind of sensitive to the natural and built environment. I would not say that's a bad thing. I just trying to put out here that, when we were talking about some density increases adjacent to a metro station, we were trying to help kind of inform and balance the recommended land use that's in the comprehensive plan. So in doing that, we were kind of supporting it with a local grid of streets. But again, if you think it's important that we have something that kind of shows the balanced approach and shows something slightly different, I would say you can have both in there, and it'd be okay, just to understand that there is a historic overlay district that is in the Association Drive area in which you think something, if it can occur, might be more appropriate. Again, I'm going to try to defer to the Department of Planning and Development here to try, because they're the ones that are going to have to balance the different kind of competing uses in the area. I think we're trying to, but I understand what you all are saying about, where we've kind of drawn the concepts. Again, we conceptually they can move, but I understand the a little bit of the concern coming from the task force.
Just draw a grid that accomplishes all that, but still has the potential of saving those buildings plus the open space. I don't see why we can't have a design that works. I don't know.
I agree with John.
I agree with John.
So a curly line would maybe do it. Is that right, John?
Yes, that's the
I
point.
think so.
Okay.
So my question is, depending on how this vote turns out, assuming that this, John Carter's proposal is approved, could Department of Planning and Development, John Carter, and Fairfax County DOT sit down and redraw those lines to do what John Carter is advocating? Is that possible, Mike Garcia?
I would think we could definitely look at it and kind of developable blocks and see how we can kind of make an alternative work.
Let's do it. I'm all for it.
Okay.
Would it be possible to add a sentence somewhere in the text that says that, in developing a grid of streets in this area, FCDOT and the developers should avoid the sensitive areas identified elsewhere in the plan, or something like that?
There is a sentence about that, at least the conceptual nature of these streets. It is, am I right, John? I think that's
That is correct. It's on the bottom of page 82. The conceptual, I'll read it. The conceptual local street network for each of the 3 TSAs is shown in figure X on the following page. The proposed street alignments are shown as concepts. There should be reasonable flexibility in the final location and configuration of new street connections to accommodate topography and other constraints, including property-specific land planning that otherwise implements and reflects the collective vision and goals of the area.
So I was.
Go ahead. Let's. Was that John Carter wanting to say something more?
No.
Okay. That was Bill.
Okay, Bill.
I was just saying that's good general language. I don't think that'll satisfy everybody. If we could put a sentence in the land use section where it describes this area, or here in the text that says specifically that the grid of streets in this area will avoid, to the extent possible, whatever magic phrase you want, the sensitive areas identified elsewhere.
I think we have that in the land use plan, but we can relook at it and see.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's vote on John's basic motion first. And I took this language from his email to me. So again, the motion is remove the north-south street through the middle of Association Drive area and relocate the east-west connection to the Wheeling Metro Station to the northern edge of the Association Drive area. Walter, can we have a vote?
All right. Yes? Comments?
Oh, I was seconding his motion.
Is this
Okay.
John Carter's?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, you want to go east-west, not north-south.
No.
It's both.
Both.
But around the trees.
Right.
Yeah. So John's motion addresses both north, south, and east, west.
Okay, all in favor of the motion as articulated by John Mooney, please raise your electronic hands in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I see 5.
Coming. Wait a minute.
Oh, okay, hold on. Still
There I
voting.
go. I'm up.
Okay, thank you, Jan. So that is 6 6 in favor. Okay, everyone who had your hand up, go ahead and pull those down. All right. So now all opposed to the motion, raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Five opposed.
Man.
I count that right? Yep. Okay. And now abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Three abstentions. Okay, the motion passes 6-5 with 3 abstentions.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on to number 5, which concerns the Herndon grid of streets. The question is, how should the Herndon grid of streets currently depicted in the August version of the comprehensive plan be fine-tuned? And basically, Mark Malcolm, Fairfax County DOT, and Commissioner Carter have had preliminary discussions on this. That discussion has not been completed. So instead of a vote on the substance of the issue, I would make this following motion. Authorize Mark Malcolm, Fairfax County DOT, and Commissioner Carter to produce a proposed fine-tune Herndon local street grid for public and task force discussion.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jan. Any discussion? Okay, then let's go ahead and vote. And John Mooney, your hand's up. I don't know if you.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Okay, so all in favor of the motion, raise your hand electronically in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See 9 in favor. Okay, go ahead and put your hands down. All right. And Malcolm, go ahead and put your hand down. And Alvarez. Okay, Alvarez, go ahead and, there you go. Great, thank you. All right, all opposed to the motion, please raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and I see 3 opposed. Okay. All abstentions. Okay, everyone. Put
Charles,
hand.
your hand is still up, Charles.
Okay, great, thanks. All abstaining, raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And back to 1 abstention. Okay, John, back to you.
I was interested in Mark's perspective on this. Are there changes that are needed, Mark? If there are, we'll make them, but I just was.
The basic issue is the road going through the bus stop makes little sense. It's an existing structure.
Okay. We'll work that out. We'll work that out.
That's kind of really simple. And then there's the only other issue deals with the eastern side of the T-Mobile property, should there be any kind of road shown. The trails make perfect sense.
Okay.
And my conversations with Fairfax DOT staff over the last week indicated that they really appreciate Mark's comments. So I think this will be an easy resolution.
And actually, I do have photos of the entire bus depot lanes, because there's nothing that can really be done to improve it except potentially one marking on that. But it's there. Thanks to all.
Okay. And the final question is, should we restore a recommendation not to add vehicle lanes, especially new through lanes, to minor arterial roadways within TSA? This is a recommendation of Bill Penniman. You've had a chance to read that. Are there any questions about this? And one thing I did not note in my write-up here is that we did add new language on page 78, which is a consensus, which is consensus language from the Transportation Committee and Fairfax County DOT on conditions for widening, saying that these are done when truly needed. So, but anyway, any questions, or Bill, do you want to say anything about this? Bill Penniman?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, this just goes to trying to keep the TSAs more walkable. Addition of lanes makes it harder and harder for people to get across, discourages people from walking, and in the long run will undermine what we're trying to achieve in the TSAs, particularly in the TOD areas. There was, by the way, a picture the last time around, a photograph of an elderly man in a wheelchair being accompanied by roughly his 10-year-old grandson, and the look of fear as they crossed a wide road was quite striking. It's, I remember it today. So avoiding widening in those areas is to everyone's benefit, I think. Thank you.
I think this is a good issue. I just hope, and not to bring back old news, I hope this level of service E is not going to undermine this. Which I think it will.
So John, are you suggesting that we should have, for example, a level F?
I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that LOS is not a good tool to do the kind of thing that's here in blue. I don't care whether it's F, G, C, D, whatever. The goal is to not widen and to improve walkability. And I think when you do use things like level of service in terms of like E, that it undermines this. So that's, I don't want to bring up the old issues. I like the bullet. I'm just concerned about this level of service. E will undermine this.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mike Garcia, do you want to say anything from the perspective of Fairfax County DOT quickly?
I'll just say that we don't take widening. We really consider it seriously when we're doing it. We don't want to do it if we can do any other means of doing it. So if we can promote the active transportation uses, really promote the use of transit, it's one of the last things that we do look at. We have very few spots of it anyways, and I think as if we had to consider something, it would be something that we want to consult with the community to make sure that we haven't considered anything else. Building out the grid is really paramount to not widening, and it's something we try to do first and foremost.
Okay. And let me note finally, and I tried to figure out how we would handle this without having to make multiple changes in the text for each minor arterial. And what I did in blue at the bottom of the page, I will read, and Bill Penniman, you can say whether this is an acceptable thing. I suggest that on page 79, and based on Bill's analysis and his wording, it might read, quote, additional vehicle lanes, especially new through lanes, should not be added to minor arterial roadways within the TSAs unless determined to be truly necessary after careful analysis of impacts and alternatives. Is that a fair statement of your position, Bill?
Except I would take it one phrase further, and so after careful analysis of the impacts and alternatives and full vetting with the public.
Okay.
What's an example of a minor arterial? Is that Sunset Hills?
We're talking Sunset Hills,
Yeah.
Wheeling, Sunrise Valley,
Reston Park.
See, this is what's happened. In Sunset Hills, it has 7 lanes. To repeat what I said before, that's because of this level of service issue. Should
Well,
have had 7 lanes.
but that goes to whether level of service should be used at all. Since it
Yes.
is used by a VDOT, we have to, suffer the compromise and go with the MOU. But we've already got someplace else in here where FCDOT or VDOT, somebody wants to add more through lanes all along Sunset Hills. And at some point, it's just a problem.
I'm not going to belabor this, but we've spent $6 billion, that's with a B, to build a metro, and you cannot walk to it easily so far with the analysis tools that we have. It's a shame. But I like the blue. I think the blue is a good addition. I'm just not sure the effectiveness of it. But I'll be quiet.
Mark Malcolm, I'd like to add a little to the discussion in the following way. Bill Penniman's comment was valid because you always read things, not just what they say, but also try to read the converse. The reason John Carter speaks to 7 lanes isn't the through lane issue. It's the turn lanes at intersections, and especially with Sunset Hills and with Sunrise Valley, that becomes the case. Excuse me, from my perspective, the age-old discussion of grade separated interchange, which is a way to reduce the lanes sometimes. But the thing is, I agree with John Mooney's wording. I strongly suggest the public vetting statement with Bill Penniman because it does address the potential of having eminent domain be part of the transportation discussion. Thank you.
So with that, if I could make the motion of John's language in the blue plus the additional phrase, after careful analysis of impacts and alternatives and full vetting, you can get a better, fancier word, full review and vetting with the public.
And full comment, full review and comment by the public.
That's fine. And with that,
I think
will
Bill
make a
used the
motion.
word vetting, John.
Right.
I did.
I did.
John got fancier. He got more legalistic. And so I'm okay with his phrase. Review and commenting by the public.
I've got something else for you, Bill.
Okay.
I think Mark reminded me, it's not especially new through lanes, it's the turn lanes that add to it. So it should be through lanes and turn lanes.
Yeah, and what this says is additional vehicle lanes, so
Yes.
it covers both.
Well, but it says
I said especially new through lanes. Okay, just additional vehicle lanes.
Yeah,
Take out the especially new through.
there you
Okay.
go. That's better.
And I will tell you that in my discussions with Fairfax County DOT staff over the last week concerning this, they also expressed their concern about turn lanes.
Yeah.
So
That's why I would recommend drop the comma, especially new through lanes.
Yes.
It makes it much cleaner and it gets the real issue up front.
Gotcha.
I accept the change.
Okay, so reading it again, additional vehicle lanes should not be added to minor arterial roadways within the TSAs unless determined to be truly necessary after careful analysis of impacts and alternatives and full review and comment by the public.
Yes, my motion.
Okay.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second?
I second Mark Malcolm.
All right, Mark seconds. Any discussion, further discussion of the motion? Okay, then let's go to a vote. So the vote will be for the motion as articulated by John Mooney. slight variation of what's on the screen. So all in favor of that motion, please raise your electronic hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I believe I got 12 in favor. Okay. Go ahead, take your hands down. Okay, everyone take your hand down. Okay, good. All right, all opposed, raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, no opposed. Wow. Abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2 abstentions. Okay. The motion passes 12-0 with 2 abstentions.
That's it, Walter.
All right. Okay, very good, John. So those are considered incorporated into the transportation chapter.
Good job, John.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, John. Okay, so we are making progress. I know we are running into our 3rd hour plus. The next item on the agenda and the last one for discussion and finalization of task force chapter recommendations is earned density. And Lynn?
I'm still here, but
Wow,
I do
Lynn.
need to, I do
Oh.
need to. So, yeah, I was going to mention that the earned density draft was included in the draft that you all received.
Yes, at the very end, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, Lisa, if you could pull that up.
Do you want me to pull it up?
Let's see. Lisa, are you able to find that at the very end of the document?
Yes, just 1 second, please.
I've actually got it right here, if it would be easier for me to share.
Lynn, whatever you want to do, I have it. I brought it up to, I think you have presenter role.
Okay, I'll do that.
Sorry, my computer's extremely slow tonight.
Okay, yeah. So this is the, and I think John Carter, you were on the special working group that developed this content. So it may be easier through this.
I guess the question is, do you want to add it at this time or?
Can everyone see
Let's just be clear. This is
content?
not what was developed by the working group. And you saw Mark's email, and David Gill was on that committee. He agrees. This did not come out of that sub-working group.
Well, I can tell you right now that I went ahead and reordered it. I thought that starting out expecting that companies are going to do a major public facility to earn the credit was not feasible. I thought we would start early, having them do something achievable, such as improve the multifamily unit mix by providing for more 3-bedroom units. So you may notice that everything is the order of it is from more achievable to more challenging rather than more challenging to less achievable.
Okay, well, thank you, Jan. Appreciate that. So it sounds as though we are probably not working again with the latest versions. So I guess what I would ask is that we defer the vote on earned density until we do get the final version that the working group developed, and then get that in front of the task group.
I think that's fine personally.
Wasn't that sent on? That was sent on April 25th to everybody. That's the only version that has been ever distributed. And that was after one meeting of the group, and there was never another meeting. So I don't know where this language we're looking at even came from.
But John Carter and I worked on some of it.
I think if you want to defer it, fine. I think that, you know, the gist of this, and we can wordsmith however you like, but this is ending up a lot different than it started. If you remember when it started, that we had the notion of a range of densities in particularly the TSA's area, a low to high. And to get to the high, you would have to use earned density. That is gone in this kind of text. These now are just a list of items that could be used. This is a set the priorities that the Board of Supervisors might have. This is not an attempt to reduce density anywhere. So the gist of this is quite different. But I think if you want to send it back and have some more work, as Mike Jennings is saying,
John, where did this language we're looking at, this that we see right here and a little bit below, where did this come from?
That was in the last meeting of the group. That this specific.
I don't think that's true. Mark Looney and David Gills, said they never saw this.
I think you may be talking
rather than
about
debating that. If you want to defer, just go ahead and defer it.
Hey guys, this is Charles. One question, John. When you talk about that this is designed to be a plan, a tool to aid the Board of Supervisors, another point that Mark had raised and something that I thought I recalled from our last conversation is that this piece would serve as a tool outside of the plan to provide some extra guidance in development issues. Are we now making a move towards including it as part of the comp plan?
Well, it would be in the comp plan, but the issue here is the Thompson's Hotel. Now, the Thompson's Hotel in Lake Fairfax added a provision to allow these interns, and they got credit for doing that. This was an attempt to give an opening for people who wanted to do that to get some points for it. This was an attempt to reduce the density. Now, if Mike Jennings and others have concerns about this, it's certainly okay. So maybe just vote to defer and move on. I would suggest.
Yeah, John, may I just point out? There's really not. This is it for the task force. I mean, this is basically it. So it sounds like the task force has run out of time in terms of working through this particular strategy. If somebody wants to make a motion to do something with it, you're certainly free to do that. Otherwise, it sounds like the task force ran out of time before weighing in on this item one way or the other. Is that, I think that seems to be the case.
Well, I think the question is where, I hear what, I saw Mark Looney's email and I hear what Mike Jennings is saying about this iteration. So what you're saying, Walter, is that if we don't vote on this now and get something into the comprehensive plan, then there will be no earned density chapter?
No, what I'm saying is if the task force basically does not have time to work through a recommendation, there still could be something relating to this concept through the public engagement process or the planning commission or even the board of supervisors. But it would just be, it wouldn't be coming from the task force.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to accept it as is.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay.
Could I
any more
comment?
discussion? Yeah, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I read it, and apart from the question of which subgroup did what, apparently there were two different ones, and one not including Mark and David. But as I read it, it's a wording issue perhaps, but it seems to say if you do everything that's called for by the plan, you get zero density. And you have to do these things to get into the game of actual density. That's quite the opposite of what John Carter just said. It is very clear it doesn't give you any bonus density. So I'm not sure what it does do if you've met all the requirements of the plan. I don't know what this does get you. So I find it confusing apart from whether you like the ideas are in it.
And Walter, this is David Vanel. If I could add to that, this takes earned density in a completely different direction than what the 5-person group came up with. And I think either we should just drop this as a task force, or the other option would be to adopt the draft earned density commentary, earned density description that the 5-person working group came up with. And I've got a copy of it in front of me, but I think this is something either we should do what the 5-person group came up with, because that was their charge from you, or we should just drop the whole thing and let maybe figure out how you can implement the recommendations of the working group. But this is the document in front of us bears no resemblance, either in form or function, to what the group came up with.
What did the group come up with?
It's I don't want to speak for them. Maybe there's somebody from the group on here, but basically what they came up with was a methodology to apply, to basically use the items that they listed as basically bargaining chips between the county and the developer, rather than having a checklist of what you have to do and going from, if you do nothing, you get the minimum, and there's it's really a much more flexible system than what is proposed here or what has been discussed about earned density before.
Yeah, it was emailed by Lisa on April 25th, just it was, so.
Yes, I mean, David's recollection and recap is my recollection of where we left the discussion the last time earned density was visited. So I think, to me, voting on this document is unfair to the work of the task force that was convened, the work that they produced, and all of the conversation that we had several months ago on this topic.
So I've heard some people say shouldn't vote on it. There is a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. So there could be either you want the task force to vote, or is there a motion to table?
Well, I think the motion is to vote, and
Okay.
you know, that it sounds like there is opportunity to refine what is here by going to the public. So I think Jan makes a good point.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion before a vote on the motion?
Walter,
Yes, John.
I was an early and avid supporter of the notion of earned density. But as I've seen attempts to deal with it, I've personally concluded that the term earned density doesn't really fit. I go back to what John Carter said. Initially, it began with the notion that many, not all, of the land use designations in the Reston plan have a floor and have a ceiling. And the idea was that if you made the floor, then you get the floor density. But to move toward the ceiling, you have to do other things of community benefit. But in fact, many of the land use designations, I just rechecked it today, many of the land use designations don't have a range. They
Right.
just have one thing. So that notion doesn't function anymore. And if that range notion doesn't function, I'm not sure that we can really talk about earned density. Rather, we can have a list of community priorities that we urge the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission to consider when they're and staff to consider when they're negotiating with developers. But I don't think we have earned density in any meaningful sense of the term.
Could we like do something like amend the motion so that it needs more work, even though we're done as a task force, but it's something to keep in play to consider. In other words, it may have some merit, so that if we just vote on it now, it dies, but it may be worth keeping alive and trying to refine.
And it
The only
seems
issue
like
I-
we're almost trying to make a motion then, as we did with community health, to just make a motion or make a vote that we believe in the subject, but we don't have content yet. And that's what we did previously with community health. And we as a task force worked on a document that we could then vote on today. I don't know how we can vote on presenting something, vote on it, and then with the caveat that we're leaving it open for major editing and refining.
I think major editing and planning, I want to get it into the comprehensive plan. That's what I want. And then it could be worked from there.
The question, though, that I would have to raise is, A, who would do the editing and writing? And clearly there were two separate subgroups. And I don't know who would be the tiebreaker here. And two, when would the task force ever consider it again if we run our course?
Exactly.
It may not be us. It may be Board of Supervisors or another entity.
But
at
these
least
are our
it'll be in the
recommendations.
plan.
But whose recommendations would they be? I mean, anybody can write a letter to the Board of Supervisors, but I don't want to authorize people I don't know who they would be to just take it and run, we'll trust you. Even if I did.
Jen, your idea of just getting it into the comprehensive plan or getting it approved or possibly disapproved, when it requires such editing, when it requires a whole different concept, frankly, I think is not a good idea. You don't want to put something in a guidance document that doesn't provide the proper guidance.
Well, could you take the points and just use them as possibilities, the way Walter mentioned? The ideas of possibility of of what developers could do and not call it earned density?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure it quite matters exactly what you call it. I think earned density started out as a, in my eye, a misconception or a misapplication of the term. If we wanted to vote on acceptance of the 5-person group's draft from, I guess Mike said April, or maybe it was Charles Kapoor who said April. If you want to do that and say, this is what the task force believes should be in the comprehensive plan, that might be okay. But I think the whole thing should just be, either we ought to pass a health chapter kind of general. We think earned density as a concept should be considered and developed and included in the guidance, in the comp plan guidance, but we'll leave it up to Walter and others to figure out exactly what that means.
That
Hey,
sounds
David.
good. You want to make a
But-
motion?
No,
You
could I,
have your motion on the floor. You'd have to withdraw yours.
I withdraw my motion.
I've had my hand up for a while. Can I throw my 10 cents in?
Please.
So I think
Sorry,
I'm
Chris.
in support of what Charles and David are kind of setting here, that, unlike community health, where we had one more shot at it and a group of folks dove in and brought something forward, if this is something that we as a task force want to support, the recommendation of a chapter that speaks to the concepts that were put together by that working group, as well as if there's value in the text that's here too. I think there's a body of work that if Walter and the county staff, as well as the other groups, want to bring forward, then if the task force wants to recommend that this is a concept that should be captured in the comp plan update, then I think that would be the most noble thing you could do, because I don't think we're going to reach consensus on what we've got in front of us. There's just too many pieces. It needed the same kind of effort that we pulled out from this lab for community health. We had to have at least one more meeting.
if I could just add, we have two problems. One is I don't have that April 25 document in front of me. I looked for it and I couldn't find it, so I don't have it. I don't know if anybody else has it in front of them to decide whether we vote for it. And I don't think that there's even an agreement on what the meaning is for earned density. If we want to have a general statement that there ought to be additional ways that people can earn some density and be rewarded for it, okay, that's fine.
Well, I think we've got a
Um,
motion on the floor.
It's been withdrawn.
Yes, so,
Oh, right. Thank you.
That's
so with
right.
Jan's withdrawal of her motion, may I present a motion?
Please.
Given the fact that we are at a point where we don't have a document that we can agree on, we're having trouble at this point conceptually defining the terms under which we would consider earned density and where we are in this process. I'd like to make a motion to table the discussion of earned density as it relates to our final recommendations in the comp plan.
Okay,
Second.
that's been made, and I heard a second. Any discussion of the tabling motion?
What does tabling mean? Does that mean that it's dead, or does that mean that it'll be looked at in the future, or what are you thinking of when you say tabling?
Well, what it means as it relates to this group and our finalized recommendations, we just don't have the time to
Right.
flesh this out. I believe that there are other folks who are involved with this process. Walter could take a look at this and convene a group outside of this body, but I just don't think we're at the point where this group can extend itself to get to the point where we can take a vote on a document of substance.
That makes sense.
I'd like to suggest an amendment on it that the task force also recommend that the county staff pursue or consider the inclusion, if feasible, something to this effect in their update. Like I think Charles's motion is fine, but I don't think if there's an interest, and it sounds like there's still an interest amongst the task force that this concept be looked at. Why wouldn't we advocate for that at all? It then seems like with just tabling, we just stopped. and we didn't even provide a recommendation, whether it's not a recommendation for a chapter, but a recommendation that county staff continue to pursue this topic and consider it for possible inclusion.
Well, that's a good motion.
But that's a friendly suggestion for an amendment. It has to be accepted by the maker and the seconder. If it's not, then.
So Chris, can you articulate just very briefly that this be tabled, but
The task force continue to recommend that county staff pursue the concept of earned density. I'm trying to avoid using that term, but as it pursues finalizing the Reston comp plan.
okay.
Is that I want to try to give something enough that I'll alter you and your staff at the Department of Planning and Development or have a way to look at this further in your own auspices. But that it's not that we as a task force don't think it's a worthwhile topic.
Charles, what's your pleasure?
So, well, considering that you do have a subgroup, Walter, that has been working on this, I would be amenable to adding on to my motion that you continue to explore this and refine this with your working group.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I would accept that as a seconder.
Okay. And Bill, I saw your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to comment on the general suggestion that was made. If we don't have an agreement on what the meaning is of earned density and are a little afraid to use the term, then we shouldn't have.
I actually like the way Charles framed it. I think he has a nice artful way of putting it, because there's a group that Walter's working with, and let's keep working with them, on that subject. I think the way you put it, Charles, I think gets to what I was trying to work at. This is the topic that I stayed out of, but I think I just want to recognize the spirit of the task force efforts here. We've got bodies of work that I wouldn't want to say we did nothing on. Instead, keep working on this, supervisor. We can't carry it all the way, but perhaps you can continue to pursue something.
Okay, so the motion is to table the motion, but to have the subgroup keep working with the supervisor's office and the planning commissioner and county staff on the idea or ideas. Okay. Does that sound right, Charles?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So any more discussion on that? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor of the motion to table, but to continue to have the subgroup continue discussions with county staff, planning commissioner, and supervisor's office anyway. Please raise your hand electronically in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, see 12 in favor. Go ahead and put your hands down. All right, so now let's go to opposed in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One opposed. All right, and abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right. I see 3 abstentions. All right, that motion to table passes, but with the charge for the subgroup to continue to work with staff, supervisor's office, and planning commissioner. Okay. All right. Anything else on that topic before we head to the big votes?
I had a question, and that was,
yeah, Bill.
Yeah, there was supposed to be some kind of, what was it called on the agenda? Oh shoot, Lynn was putting together, what's the magic term? It was
The dashboard.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you, Bill. And
I'll be sharing that next when we get to the full draft, Bill.
yet. And that'll tee up, that'll lead to the big vote. So are we ready then?
I have a statement. This is Tammy. It's 8:30.
Yes.
This is crazy. We need another meeting.
No, Tammy, this is it.
Okay.
It's right now. It's
All right.
or no recommendation. So Lynn, it's yours. Go ahead with the dashboard.
Okay. All right. So these are the actions from today, but we're going to look at the current draft. So, number one, we got through community health with the chapter edits from Chris Daniels. Thank you. That was approved. Parks, Rec, and Open Space. So these are changes that are going to be made to the draft that you all have received. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go to the current draft. Forgive me. All right. So these are the changes that were made to the current draft that was sent out in a PDF format that you all were able to access. So, sorry. So in Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, the version that you all were looking at, and what we're doing is we're reviewing all of the edits that were made from the time that you all voted on the individual chapters to the aggregated version where we got additional inputs and edits from the chapter leads. So what you received in the PDF, these are the edits that were made to those chapters beyond what the task force voted on. So in the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, the Fairfax County parks outside of Reston were removed, and that action was also applicable to public facilities. In land use, on page 37, there was a sentence about site design for townhouses must orient buildings to complete streets instead of alleys. That sentence was improperly located in the preceding paragraph, so it was relocated back to its proper position in the paragraph before where it was. Nothing was changed in the sentence. In public facilities, there were two edits. Fairfax County parks outside of Reston, as I mentioned in number one, and there was W&OD trail was missing from the chapters, so that was added, and we also included a photo. In earned density, I guess we're not going to be even talking through that, so that's moot. In transportation, there was a call out that was added to the map on page 11. And then also in the transportation chapter, Mr. Mooney provided a plethora of grammatical, punctuation, and editorial changes that had no impact to the context. So those were made before that went out to you all. In environmental stewardship, there were several edits that were made. This came in from, I think the chapter leads were Bill Penniman and Tammy Petrine. And I do want to thank everybody for all of the chapter leads for the fine work. But there were some added items and notes. So this just talks about where those edits occurred. Sorry, this is okay. So these are clearly highlighted, and I think that was it. So what I would like to do is put forward the motion that we accept the comprehensive plan as amended this evening. for incorporation into a final draft that will go out to the public.
Lynn, I had a couple suggestions, John Carter.
Okay.
These are not heavyweight suggestions. I would put on the second page of the document, I just want to bring these up because we've had trouble with version control. The second page is blank now. I would suggest we put where you can get copies of this, at least on the web. And then maybe something about the graphics that they're not copyrighted, that they all have been all approved. So I would suggest just a couple sentences on that second page. And then on the last page, I would list the task force members. I'm curious as what they think about that. Since this is a task force document, perhaps listing the task force members on the last page. So, and I also would caution there would be maybe some slight movement of the graphics around, not new ones, but slight movements of them. So I would want to make sure people are okay with that. So I don't know whether we have to vote on that. Is there any opposition to those three ideas?
So I'm sorry, could you repeat those, John? I just want to get them recorded. So you said the second page?
Yes, which is now blank. I would put, if it's a public, where do you get your copies? So, and maybe the website should be there. And I don't know if we're going to print this. If we're going to print it, then we should put where you get it, where you would receive that. Something about that. And then the last page would be the list of the task force members. And I would be curious what the task force members think about that.
I think all of John's suggestions are good ones.
I agree. These meetings are videotaped and live streamed and all that, so it's not like folks don't know who we are. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
I agree, John.
And then there's I don't know if we're acting on the public outreach in the notes that we got. I would add to the public outreach, we probably ought to have a meeting with RA to that list of people. I would also add the
John, can I just jump in on that?
Yeah.
So yeah, the public outreach this is just the skeleton of the public outreach.
Okay.
And any entity, RA, RCA, anybody who wants to host a meeting is more than welcome to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought we should go forward with the planning commission. I'm curious whether you have any concerns about that, particularly Walter, but I had promised the planning commission that we would do this early rather than waiting till the last day. So,
yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those are great suggestions also. I really do.
It's not how we usually do things in Fairfax,
Yeah.
but we're breaking new ground here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as folks, and I know this kind of jumps into the next item agenda, but as folks represent organizations and you would like to have, a special meeting, with the presentation on the plan update and what the task force has done, what the recommendations are, just let my office know. Happy to work with you on that.
Because I can tell you right now, Stratford House is chomping at the bits to have.
Okay.
Have us there.
I
do
would
it, Jan.
keep in mind.
Okay,
this is
well
gonna
then,
keep-
so with.
Lynn, just one more. Sorry.
Yeah.
We need a couple days to actually make all these changes into the plan and get it all done. So we're not
Yes.
talking about weeks, but just a couple of days to be able to, and I'd be glad to help you, Lynn, and whatever you think is appropriate.
Thank you.
I don't know if everyone's aware, but Reston Optimist Club has merged with the Herndon Club. It's now the Herndon Reston Optimist Club, and we would love to have you come speak on it. I know that.
Great. Happy to do that, Alvarez. Thank you.
Okay, so with John Carter's amendments to the draft, can we go ahead and have the vote for accepting? Walter?
Yeah.
Lynn, I vote we accept these.
So Len, can you go ahead and restate your motion?
So I will restate the motion. I move that the task force adopt the comprehensive plan as amended on August 22nd, inclusive of John Carter's recommendations.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, then let's go to vote. So just like we have, so I'll do the countdown. Everyone take your hands down. John Mooney, I think your hand's still up. Charles Colby. But so I'll do the countdown. This is in favor of Lynn's motion for task force recommendation of the plan as amended tonight with John Carter's amendments from a few minutes ago. So all those in favor, raise your hands in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep your hands up. Okay, 6 in favor. All right, go ahead and take your hands down. All right, all opposed to Lynn's motion, raise your hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I count 6.
Oh, geez.
Walter,
Yes,
this is Bill. I was going to abstain,
yeah,
but under the circumstances, with some reservations, given all the work that's gone into it and the improvements that have been made, I will vote yes.
okay.
Good job, Bill.
All right, so 7 in favor then. And let me recount oppose. Let me recount oppose. So oppose, keep your hands up. Okay, 6 oppose. And take your hands down, abstentions. Abstentions, raise your hands in.
My supervisor, this is Mike Jennings. It looks like my hand was still up on, oh, that's right. Never mind. Keep going.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
get
all
my
right. We'll
hand
just
down.
get to abstentions. That's okay.
Yeah.
Abstentions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, 2 abstentions. That motion passes. All right.
And I wanted to
So-
say, could I just say thank you to all the people I agreed with and the ones I disagreed with over the course of this effort.
Thank you,
People-
Bill. And I
people did a good
think you
job.
deserve
Thank
the final word as the deciding vote on this one.
That's a great. You contributed. You listened. I love the way that you held the meetings, Walter. Having everybody have their say. Careful consideration. It was fabulous. We all pulled together. That's a great task force you put together.
Well said.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jan.
Walter.
No, thank you, Alvarez. Well, listen, I know this has been a really long meeting, and I know it's been a really long process. But it's been an incredible learning experience for me. And it's been, I think, extremely useful to get all these issues out on the table and have a full, robust discussion. I don't think there's anybody who agrees with everything in the task force recommendation. So, and that's okay. I want to thank folks for not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good here. So, and I have a feeling that as we go into public engagement and we go to the Planning Commission public hearing and the Board of Supervisors public hearing, that some of you may show up at some of those. So, and that's okay. That's okay. So, you know, it's really, really an honor to be a part of this effort and to have folks come together to make these recommendations. And I know the disagreements have been very strong in some cases, some of them very, very deep-seated and heartfelt. But hopefully everyone really appreciates each other's commitment to the community and to making the community a better place. So thank you. Thank you also for your patience. And a really big shout out to John Carter. John, thank you for everything that you did to make this process complete. And Bill, thanks for changing your vote at the end, so we don't have to have another meeting.
Say, Walter, I'd like to say something. I don't.
Yes, please, John.
After you, but I would like to end this on a high note. This is tough sledding to do this. And we've broken a lot of new ground. It's not just the format and the graphics and the clarity that this plan has that perhaps some of the other plans don't have. And that was a lot of work. Adding the graphics that are critical in plans that we don't usually have. And you can see all the discussion we had about the grid of streets, which you couldn't put in text. You really would have to have graphics. The use of floor area ratios on the graphics, I think that was all tough sledding and something entirely different than Fairfax County normally would use. And then, of course, the new chapters, the new items that were added, particularly health and equity, those will all serve us very well. So I think despite the votes and the closeness of some of these things, this was extremely tough sledding to do a new process, both in the way the task force is organized, but to create a new and different way of doing plans which, from my humble point of view, we needed desperately in Reston, if not all of Fairfax County. So anyway, I think people should be very proud of the results and should recognize that, yes, this was difficult. It is a difficult process, but we got through it. So that's my thought.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. All right, any final comments before some of us go off and eat dinner?
It was an awesome experience, I have to tell you.
All right. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, everybody. And
Thank you.
Appreciate everybody's work on all this. Have a good evening.